It'd have to be that and Bradbury.
I think that gold medal is probably one of the funniest gold medals that any
In
country
history.
has ever won. Yeah. It's like you were coming dead last and then everyone fell over.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's like the equivalent of someone coming dead last in a powerlifting competition and then everyone bombing on deadlifts and them winning.
Yeah. But here's the other thing, though. He got to the final.
Yeah.
So he was in the position to take advantage of the misfortune. And welcome back to Bars Loaded Podcast with Ben and Nick.
Huge difference, like in terms of like running on a track versus running on like say concrete, like the difference in like force absorption and that sort of shit. It's gonna be a hell of a lot nicer on the joints.
Yeah, I never thought it would have made that much of a difference. Like I always kind of thought it was a bit of a wank, like going to run at the track. I was like, fuck, why would I do that? I'll just run on the grass or run on the concrete. But it makes a huge difference. It feels so much nicer.
Yeah.
You can like when I walk onto the track, you can almost
Feel the sponge.
Yeah, you can feel it under your feet. I'm like, oh, this is nice,
Mm.
and I feel faster. Just because,
fuck boy.
Yeah, when I'm on the track, I'm like, dude, there's no way I don't look like Usain Bolt here. There's no way.
Just a few shades lighter.
I don't even know, man. I reckon I just a spitting image.
Well, that's why I said a few shades. Like it's not like you're polar opposites. Like you.
I reckon, in all honesty, when I'm at the track, I'm Shervo without the hog. For sure.
Go with that.
Talk about an Australian icon.
Mm.
I was a big Shervo fan.
Why am I not surprised?
Were you not? Why not?
Just wasn't.
Yeah, I was a big Shervo fan.
Mm.
Big Shervo fan. Big Kathy Freeman fan.
Yeah. I think like Kathy Freeman in that like 2000 Olympic full bodysuit, iconic.
Oh, dude. Talk about iconic Australian sporting moments. That's for sure up there.
Mm.
It'd have to be that and Bradbury.
I think that gold medal is probably one of the funniest gold medals that any
in
country
history
has ever won. Yeah. It's like you were coming dead last and then everyone fell over.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's like the equivalent of someone coming dead last in a powerlifting competition and then everyone bombing on deadlifts and them winning.
Yeah. But here's the other thing, though. He got to the final.
Yeah.
So he was in the position to take advantage of the misfortune of the others. And I think sometimes that gets overlooked because, yeah, it's hilarious that he was losing by such a margin that everyone else fell over and they were so close together that they took each other out. But he was just so far behind that it didn't even affect him. But the fact that he was there in the first place is something that everyone else on the planet can't say because he was better than everyone on the planet except the 4 people that were in front of him.
Yeah.
They were just so much better than him that they were so far ahead of him. It's like, it's an achievement in and of itself just to get in the position to take advantage of that misfortune. But then the way that it happened just made it so funny that I think it got overlooked.
100%.
And the way he claimed it afterwards too, like his whole career post-Olympics has just been him saying like, I'm a shit cunt that won gold, basically, and making jokes about it. And everyone's like, dude, you're the best.
I feel like, though, in a situation like that, you kind of have to play on it. Like, I feel like if you're going to sit and be like, no, I'm the best, like, I won gold, I'm obviously the best in the world, anyone with a set of eyes would look at that and go, yeah, but, like, they all fell over.
Yeah, he could have really leaned into that fact and been like, no, like I was in the final, I did all this work to get there. I deserved it because I was there and to take
This was my
advantage of it.
strategy from the start.
Not even strategy, but just like just saying like at least I was in the final.
Yeah.
There was a lot of people that went to the Olympics that didn't make it to the final. I
Yeah.
did that, and whatever happened after that happened, and that's it. But he didn't even do that. He was just like, "Yeah, fuck it. Everyone fell over. I won."
Mm.
It's like the most Aussie thing to do of all time. Um, that one. What else is a good iconic Aussie sporting moment? Um, the swim. Ian Thorpe.
Hmm.
The Thorpe swim was a big one.
I think as well, like, I think it was the 4x1 swim team.
Yeah, that was a good
Like
one.
Thorpe, Grant Hackett. Was it Grant Hackett?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he was
Michael
in it.
Klim, and there was someone else. But
That
like
was a big
they
win.
were, yeah, they were fucking powerhouse.
That Ian Thorpe, the long swim that he won, and he just like nuked cunts and won by like 3 laps.
Hmm.
I was at the beach surfing that day, and I remember it so clearly because we're at Nobby's Beach. I don't know if you ever went to Nobby's Beach when you were up here. That's where I used to surf a lot when I was a kid, because it was the first beach that you would kind of come to after you got off the train, then
Hmm.
catch a train in and go and surf there. And they played it over the commentary on the radio over the loudspeaker from the Surf Life Saving Club.
Hmm.
So we were out in the water surfing, and we could hear the commentary of the race. It was pretty cool.
That's pretty cool.
And the commentators, like towards the end, were just they were getting up for it because it
Mm.
was he was just winning by so much, and I think he just like murked the world record too in that race.
Yeah.
That was a pretty good one. What else has there been? There's been some good Australian sporting moments.
Mm.
Some of the cricket matches,
I was
those
gonna say,
like
like,
the Australian cricket team used to just fucking beat people in 2 days. That was pretty good.
well, I remember when I was a teenager growing up, like, Dad would always watch like the Test cricket around December, and then obviously there was the Boxing Day Test. Like, one day Test was so good to watch.
Hmm.
Like, I certainly there's a lot of sports that I don't watch because I find them frankly like a little bit boring to watch on TV. Like, I don't watch AFL on TV. I don't watch tennis on TV. I don't watch cricket on TV. I don't watch golf on TV. But if someone was gonna be like, "Hey, look, do you want to go along and watch this in person?" I'm like, it's a different story. Like, even like the T20 cricket, like, that is fucking so much fun to go and watch. Like, I remember a couple
Yeah.
like years and years and years ago, I went to a match with my dad, and literally we got there like I think it was all done and dusted in like 2 hours.
Hmm.
But we
And
literally
it's
just went there
excitement the whole time.
the whole time. It's up here. You're mixing a bit of beer and shit with that as well, and it's just like it's
Hmm.
really fun and really exciting. And that was fucking great. Like, I've
Yeah.
gone to footy games where, like, a few times I've gone to them, I've been fortunate enough to like to sit in a box or like have really good seats. I'm like, yeah, cool. Like, this is exciting because like you're in it.
Yeah.
But like, if you're gonna be like, hey, look, we're gonna sit at home and we're gonna have a game, I'll be like, no, that bores the fuck out of me.
Yeah.
But I think looking back to the cricket when, I mean, this is going back like 20 years ago, where it was like Adam Gilchrist,
The War
um,
Brothers,
the War Brothers,
Ponting was in there. Just
yeah, like that lineup,
yeah.
fucking
Hato
dangerous. Yeah,
Hato was opening
like
with
I can't
Langer.
remember who it was, but he was playing Test cricket on his 30th birthday, and he got his first hat trick on his birthday.
That was when Warney was bowling too.
Yep, they were the glory
Warney,
days.
dude, Warney was my favorite growing up.
I don't think you could really grow up as an Aussie kid and not be like, yeah, Wardy's a fucking legend.
Oh, he was just such a loose cannon, but then also so incredibly talented.
Yeah.
Which I think, if you really look at it, most of the people that are just outrageously talented like that are also massive loose cannons.
I feel like you kind of have to be to have that like outlet.
I think maybe I think it feeds into it a little bit. Is like
Mm,
the looseness that you possess is part of what makes you great
yeah.
because you just don't conform to what others see as the boundaries or restrictions or like this is the best that you can be or this is how we do things. You're just so loose that you're like, nah, dude, I'm just gonna like throw the ball all the way out there and bowl someone around their legs because like why not?
Well, I was gonna say
Whereas
like,
everyone else is like, well, no one's ever done that, so I'm not going to do it because I don't want to look like an idiot. If you don't give a fuck,
or like I say, if we are speaking of like great sporting performances, we're going to talk about me in my amazing powerlifting career. Back in 2016, when I was prepping for GPC nationals, it was like my first nationals ever, and there was a girl that I was dating at the time who, like, she liked to go out on the weekend. So literally, like, we'd go out on a Friday night, we'd go out on a Saturday night, and we'd be out till fucking anywhere between like 1 and 4 a.m.
who are you?
I know, right? But like, we'd go out, we'd drink heaps, and I was getting like pissed as a fucking skunk every weekend for this entire prep. And I remember I had people that were like, dude, like, pull your head in, like, this isn't good for performance. But like, I had my program, and every single week of my program, I was like, oh, well, what have been programmed? Like, this is easy. So I would bump it a little bit, and I would still smoke it. And my coach at the time was like, dude, like, training's going really well at the moment. Like, what are you doing differently? I'm like, dude, you don't want to know. And he was like, are you, I'm like, nope. I'm like, still natty. He's like, okay. He's like, well, just keep doing what you're doing. Like, things are moving really well. I'm like, yep, no worries. And pretty much like, yeah, every like, sometimes even like Thursday nights, like it was like, Friday, Saturday night was out. And then literally like my last heavy bench session, I think was meant to be like, it was like two singles at like 140. And that was like my last heavy bench session. I was like, that feels good. I'm like, I'll do it for doubles. 2x2 at 140, send it to my coach. He's like, bro, he's like, everything's looking real good. It's like, yeah, I know, like it's great. I did so that last heavy bench session was on the Tuesday. I woke up Wednesday morning with competition on Saturday. Woke up the Wednesday morning and I was sick as a dog.
Beautiful.
Made weight on Friday, had the worst time doing it. Competed on the Saturday, went 4 from 9. PB'd my bench. And then went out that night, got really, really drunk again. Because obviously, like, the whole team went out because we were pretty much all finished competing. Went out on the Gold Coast, got absolutely blind drunk again. And then we flew back on the Monday. I got home Monday night, ended up having the next week off work because I was real, like, I was coughing up like green, like, I'm talking like fluoro green phlegm. And I was so unwell. And then I reckon I went probably 6 months without touching like a drop of alcohol because I was like, nope. I'm
I'm
like,
done.
for the last like 3 months, I've hit it really hard, and it caught up with me at the
Yep.
worst time possible. But yeah, there's been some pretty like, I think that would 100% go up there with one of
Iconic moments.
iconic Australian sporting moments.
Yeah, I reckon my squat that I posted is probably up there too. 292 torn adductor, 0 ACL attached,
Yeah.
chronic osteoarthritis.
No, I
Yeet.
think if I'm thinking of like my iconic sporting moments, it would certainly be what was it, Pro Raw 11, where like I was going up for like my second deadlift, and Marcos is commentating, and he's like, Ben hits his 280 deadlift, it'll be his first 700 kilo total. I'm like, motherfucker, it'll be 705. Thank you very much. And then I pulled it, and I'm like, did it? And he's like, yep. He's like, Mr. 700. I walked up, I'm like, it's Mr. 705, you fuck. And then I didn't take a third.
You didn't take a third.
No, I got what I wanted. And I was like, there is absolutely no chance that I have anything left in the tank for that.
Yeah, I think that's a smart move.
Yeah, I mean, like classic comp day stuff. Like you're coming up, you're like, oh, I don't know if that was a fart or if it was a shit.
Well, yeah, not just on comp day. That happened to me this morning on the GHD.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's like had a quick look around. Everyone had headphones on, so I was safe, but could have been a bad time.
Yeah, you were like instead of GHD, being glued ham, it was like, gosh, hot darn.
Gosh, I've done. Oh, I'm loving the GHD at the moment.
I know.
Loving it. I'm hammering it in some form or fashion every single training day.
It's good.
It's so versatile. I mean, we've gone through this before in one of our previous episodes where we spoke about our favorite exercises,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm pretty sure I mentioned it in that the GHD being something that I feel like every single gym on the planet should have, and I will always program it in some form or fashion in pretty much every program that I ever do.
Yeah.
I like it. I think there's so many uses for it. It's so beneficial.
Well, like those like isometric razor curl holds I did last week fucking ruined
Yep.
my hamstrings in like the best possible way. And like I wasn't even in a position where they should have been like working that hard, but I'm like, they were. And they were
Yeah.
in an
Well,
area where my hamstring felt really underutilized. And I was like, oh, I think I found a winner here.
yep. Exactly. So here's the thing that I love with those holds specifically and the pulses
Mm-hmm.
against the hard strap. You can find a position that you want to train. For example, like
Mm-hmm.
hamstrings with a bent knee that you do with the razor curl holds. And say you do a 30-second isometric times three, that's a minute and a half of peak contraction in a bent knee hamstring.
Mm-hmm.
If you then compare that to maybe like, a hamstring curl, for example, where you're getting peak contraction with a bent knee on, say, like a seated hamstring, a set of 10, your peak contraction on that is like half a second each rep. You do
Mm-hmm.
a set of 10, you've got like fucking 5 seconds of peak contraction. So it's like exponentially more work in the position that you're trying to expose to work.
Yeah.
That's why it feels so hard, but that's also why I love it. And then if you utilize a tool like the pulses, which I'm enjoying at the moment as well, and it's like you can set it up so that you hit peak contraction right at the point that you want to hit, and you do 30 seconds of pulses, and the only work that you're getting is right in that moment. It can be a really nice stimulus as well.
Mm.
But yeah, the holds are sick,
Yeah.
like
I've
so sick.
obviously like you've been doing a lot of isometrics in your training. I've started adding in a lot of mine as well. It's just so fucking nice. Like how
Oh,
many
dude, they're so
times you
nice.
hear powerlifters talk about having like sore tendons and shit like that, and it's like, well, there's literally like a really easy way that you can continue training, but you can also give your body the TLC that it needs to not be cooked.
Yeah, I think that especially for powerlifters, there's a certain amount of work that you need to get through for a skill development and
Mm-hmm.
et cetera, et cetera. And like the joint actions are going to be more because like, you just kind of need to do it. But at the same time, there's things that you can do outside of that to accumulate more work and reduce the joint actions, which is going to have a negative net effect over a extended period of time.
Mm-hmm.
If you can do like X amount of sets of squats, and then instead of going and doing more squats, you throw in some like overcoming some fucking some isometrics in there, some yielding isometrics. You're getting the same amount of stimulus with less joint actions, which over time is going to yield positive benefits to things like the regular tendinopathies and tendon issues that people that lift a lot of weights come across. It's like we can do things about that. It's just a matter of like programming intelligently around it. I'm really enjoying stacking the isometric first during the session with the type of quality that I'm going to be training in that session. So if I'm doing an eccentric dominant session, I'll do a yielding isometric to start, which is an eccentric dominant movement. And then if I'm doing a concentric dominant day, which is more power focused, so like I think I spoke about this a little bit last week, the way I kind of look at absolute strength is an eccentric dominant movement, whereas peak power is more of a concentric dominant movement, and max velocity is a concentric, and then peak power is a combination of eccentric and dominant, concentric. So if we look at, okay, if I have an eccentric dominant session, which is more geared towards like strength, I'm going to do a yielding isometric first, which quote unquote primes me for that following work. But then I can also add it after to accumulate more volume as well. And then if I'm doing a session that's more like power based, I'm going to do like an overcoming isometric, which is just a literally like as much concentric force as I can hold for like 15-second bursts, which is really going to prime me to then go and do that power output work that I'm focusing on later in that session. And it's feeling really nice.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of isometrics, man.
I know.
It's like my rabbit hole that I'm going down at the moment.
Well, one of
three. One of four.
What are the other three?
Well, two of them are kind of like I would class as maybe one rabbit hole, but little like subsections of. Yeah, isometrics is one of the rabbit holes. Plyometrics is the other rabbit hole. And then sprint mechanics / feet is the third/fourth. And I say third/fourth because it started out as sprint mechanics / sprint like KPIs. And then it quickly turned into, well, there's a lot here to do with the lower leg, lower limb, foot, ankle, calf area that's going on during this movement, during this sequence of events that we call sprinting. And then it was like, fuck, there's a rabbit hole here. Like, how does the foot move? How does the foot moving, how does the bones within the foot interact with the bones of the ankle? How does the position of the foot determine what happens at the ankle, determine what happens at the knee? Like, all of this stuff is all interrelated. Like, how can I maximize this? And that turned into just like some deep autism. Deep.
Use with some deep autism? No.
Bro, I sat down to do a uni assignment on Monday, and it turned into 4 hours of researching feet. Not like sexually.
I was going to say foot porn doesn't count as research, Nick.
No. Like, I was looking at like foot bones and like how they move and how they all of like how foot position matters and how like how we can increase our arch and increase, or how like the flat foot and how that absorbs force and distributes force through the ground, through the body, and then how we can increase our arch if we need to, and how we can flatten it out if we need to, and it's not preset, and like all of this stuff. I'm like, dude, this is so interesting that we can have an effect like that can really determine performance. Because you hear so many people like, oh, I'm flat-footed. Yeah, cool. Well, like, we can change that.
But also, I think when a lot of people talk about being flat-footed, they're not really flat-footed.
No, but you'd be surprised at how much we can actually have an effect on that.
Yeah.
Just by, and a lot of the time, it's just weak feet.
Yeah.
Which sounds crazy to say. Like, I never thought I would say that because I'm like, it's just a fucking foot. But dude, there's a lot to it. There's a lot to it. So yeah, that's a big rabbit hole I'm in at the moment. And plyometrics too. I'm deep in plyometrics at the moment.
Nice.
All the different tiers of plyometrics and the different ways that we can utilize them. And I'm seeing the benefit of it in myself. So it's just interesting, man. It's some different stuff.
It's good.
Squatted again this week.
How'd you go?
Cautious,
Mm-hmm.
but I think I would class it as a success. I did 3x3 SSB, eccentric, dominant to a box.
Mm-hmm.
So I did like a 4-second eccentric, 3 4-second eccentric to a box, and then just the explosive concentric. 3x3, no belt, no sleeves at 130.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it wasn't overly hard, but I didn't want to go too hard too soon.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it felt fine. It felt a little bit weird to be squatting. Like, I was very aware of like what my knee was doing, how it was feeling, but there was no pain or anything like that, which is nice.
It's good.
Because even when I was squatting last year, I was posting up those safety squat bars to the boxes and stuff. That was excruciating. Like, every rep was painful, but I just did it.
Yeah, because it's stubborn as fuck.
To have no pain was nice.
I bet. It's good.
How's your week been?
Not too bad. Just like work, training, all that sort of stuff. Megan was a bit crook, so I had to look after her a little bit over the weekend. Basketball was rough this weekend.
Did you just have one game or two?
We're two again. So we had a game on Saturday night against a team that I think was like 7th on the ladder, and we lost by like 11 points, which we should not have lost.
Yeah.
And then on Sunday, we played against the top team and lost to them by 3, which again, we shouldn't have lost. I think at halftime, we were up by 12. We were leading all the way up until the last 5 minutes where they just got a run. So that was hard. But again, like, if we're looking at sort of silver linings that come out of hard situations like that, our session last night was just a recovery session. So literally, again, basketball being such a heavy lower body dominant sport, we literally did like 20 minutes of lower body stretching, pretty much like split the guys up into groups of 3. They had 3 different stretches they had to hold. And it was like long hold, slow breath, like just like really like parasympathetic dominant stuff there.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had some contrast therapy as part of our recovery. So they had like 60 seconds in the cold plunge pool.
Yep.
So again, like, for the sake of like making it really solid in terms of like team building, it was like, all right, cool guys, like, when the last person gets in is when the timer starts. So like, go in as a team, otherwise people are going to get pissed at you.
Yeah.
And then they would have like 4 minutes in the warmer magnesium bath afterwards.
Yeah.
And it was like, all right, cool. Like, the moment the first person's in, the timer starts. So it was obviously playing with that a little bit. They did a couple of rounds of that, and then we went upstairs and we watched film.
Yep.
Which was, again, like, it was really nice for the guys to all sit down and like have a look at our games from over the weekend. Like, all right, cool. Like, these are timestamps of like when we did stuff really, really well. These are timestamps of when we've got stuff that we need to work on. And in terms of like bringing just like a level of accountability to the team, and like, because literally we could sit there and be like, hey, look, we're going to pick on this person right now, because obviously, like, in this situation, we can see that it resulted in a turnover, which then resulted in a score. But then, like, on the flip side, we can also be like, hey, well, you know, yeah, we just picked on this person for doing something that cost a turnover and points, but now we can pull this person out and be like, hey, look, you did a really good job here. Great job.
Yep.
And we can kind of like again, I think getting the guys to sit down and actually watch film together really, really helpful. I think it's pretty fortunate. Like the clubs have um, the option for like a recovery center that had like there's a place like it's literally like 10 minutes around the corner from mine. It's got like osteo there as well, but it's essentially like a basketball training center. So it's got
Yeah, nice.
one full court, and then I think it's got 6 like quarter courts where it's got like the nets up around. So like when you shoot, it catches in the net, and then the ball spits back out to you. So
Yeah,
like you've got all your practice areas there. It's got magnesium pool, a cold plunge, sauna. Yeah, it's a pretty cool little facility. Shout out Ball 360.
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's fucking sick, man. But yeah, like the guys, we went down there last night, did the recovery stuff, and then we
And
trained them.
they have the contrast stuff there as well in that facility.
Yeah,
Oh, dude, that's awesome.
yeah, it's fucking sick. And they've got like all the recovery booths upstairs, the lounges. Like yeah, it's pretty fucking cool.
Yeah, that's privately owned.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's so cool.
So
I'd love if they had stuff like that around here.
yeah, well, I mean, like obviously with how big sport is down here in Melbourne, like it's pretty phenomenal. Like even the gym that I train into, they're in the process at the moment of putting in like saunas and cold plunges, which would be awesome once they're finished. Like I like especially coming into winter here in Melbourne, when those saunas are ready to go. Oh,
Yeah,
I'll probably
yeah,
be
we've
the
got a
kind of
new gym.
person that like just lives in that sauna.
We've got a new gym opening up here too.
Mm-hmm.
A new world gym.
I've heard about that.
Yeah, so that'll be opening up. the the initial date was around the 1st of August, but
Mm-hmm.
they've revised that to they're hoping to be open mid-July, which
Nice.
is 6 weeks away from now. So
Are you going to train there?
yeah, I'm going to join.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, I mean, Em and I have started looking at houses up in Queensland,
Mm-hmm.
um, and we'll be looking to move probably before the end of the year. But we will join that. We will join that World Gym on a no contract basis and
Yeah,
train out of there as soon as it opens, because they are going to have quite literally
everything.
literally everything that we
Yeah,
need. They're going to have the recovery stuff in there as well. Some of the equipment that they've been posting is very
insane.
cool. The Panada stuff. They've got one of those squat machines similar to what you were doing the plyo jumps on the other day, which I'll be excited to utilize.
Mm-hmm.
But they're going to have plyo boxes. They're going to have competition benches. All of the specialty bars that we need. Quite literally everything under in one facility is going to be really nice. So
It's going to be very hard for places to compete with that gym given what they've got.
dude, it's going to be next level. And I've worked for World Gym in various locations. Some of those were great experiences. Some of them were not great experiences, but that's neither here nor there.
Mm.
This facility is all of the new World Gyms that they're building, they are going balls to the wall.
Yeah.
Like they're the best all under one roof fitness facility in Australia at the moment for sure. Like they've got everything.
Mm.
The new ones are hectic.
Yeah.
So, and there's certainly nothing like that in this area, not even close.
Mm.
And that'll be like 8 minutes from our house.
Tough.
I'm pretty excited. I mean, everyone that's listened to this podcast knows my struggle with finding a decent facility around here that has everything that I need. There's really good facilities that kind of focus on one thing, but then if the way I train, I kind of need multiple different things, and it's really hard to find one that does everything.
Mm.
So, a couple of my clients are going to be PTs there as well, which will be cool.
Nice.
Yeah, they've got the go ahead that they'll be starting on opening day, which is really cool for them.
It's always a handy thing for them to find out.
It's nice. I've been involved in a couple of gyms during like pre-sale and been there on opening day. It's something else, that's for sure.
Chaos.
It's chaos. It's the gym is never going to be busier than it is during those first few months of opening,
Mm-hmm.
because like everyone's pumped, everyone that joined is coming regularly. There's a high energy, high vibes. If you're a coach or a trainer, that is the perfect time to be involved in a facility, because yeah, it's fucking. If you're trying to build a business, that's the time to do it.
Yeah.
Which is what I said to these guys. I was like, yeah, if I was looking at doing more face to face stuff, that's where I'd be going for sure,
Mm.
because you're going to get a really nice opportunity there to be involved in something right from the start.
Yeah.
But yeah, shout out World Gym Beresfield. Pumped for you guys to open. Keen. They're going to have comp benches too.
Yeah, I've heard. I had a little bit of a squiz at like some of the equipment they're going to be bringing in. I'm like, it's pretty fucking cool.
The Pinata stuff is not cheap either.
Yeah, I know, but like I look at some of it and I'm like, yeah,
They've gone way over the top, dude. See, they've got like 3 different pec fly machine variations. It's like the same machine but just different angle on the bench. I'm like, wow, each of these machines is like $6,000, and you've just bought 3 pec fly machines. They've got 6 leg presses, dude.
yeah,
Like all different angles and shit. I'm like, wow, fucking hell, this is insane. This is like they have spared no expense. If it was me, I'd be like, I'm going to get 2, 3 leg presses. That's heaps.
Well, like I think at our gym, I think we've got 4 or 5 different hack squats.
It's wild, hey. I love it. It's just it's a big investment.
Yeah,
Big investment. So if someone else wants to do that, I'll certainly take advantage of it and train there.
fucking oath.
Boys had a good game on the weekend.
Yeah, how'd they go?
Yeah, 19s had a really good win. They ground out a good win, which was nice. It was definitely their best performance of the year. They like hung in right to the end, and then just kind of put a couple of quick tries on at the end to take the win, which was nice.
Beautiful.
And they were the game right before the main game as well, which was really good for them, because the crowd was starting to get a bit bigger and a bit hyped for the first grade boys to come on. So the 19s getting to play right before first grade was a really cool experience, and they really took advantage of that and put on a great performance. So we chatted a little bit about that last night at training, and yeah, the boys were pumped. So hopefully they can back it up again this weekend and start to put a bit of a trot of wins together. Would be nice.
Mm-hmm.
And then the first grade boys also had a really, really solid performance, probably their best performance of the year. It wasn't patchy at all. It was pretty much solid right from the start to finish, and got a really, really good win at home as well. So it's just a good day all around, man. There's a few good games there, and yeah, everything's moving in the right direction.
Very good.
It was the first game this year that was dry. So I was really excited because I didn't come home soaking wet.
Yeah, I bet you were devastated about that.
Oh, and then last night at training it didn't rain. I was like, 2 dry days in a row. This is incredible. I'm not used to this.
See, like we've been pretty lucky. Like looking at the weather down here in Melbourne over the last couple of weeks, like yeah, it's been cold, but like even this morning, like it's what 9:45, blue skies. I can't see a single cloud in the sky.
I can't see anything outside because I have my windows boarded up.
That sounds fucking suspect as all hell.
My office is a cave.
Mm.
I literally have cardboard on the windows so that I can't see out of them.
It's like fucking casinos in America, man.
Yeah,
Can't see
exactly.
daylight.
No, and you know why I did that? For a couple of reasons. One, because it looks better with the blue light for the podcast, but two, an added benefit that I've found from it that I didn't think of at the time, it makes me work so much harder because I have no idea what's going on outside. I couldn't tell you if it's 10 a.m., 2 a.m., I've got no idea. I don't know. Like, it's all the same. It's just me in a blue office with a screen in front of me. And so what it allows me to do is I can just work until I'm done
Mm.
and then just stop. And then I walk out and I'm like, oh, it's pitch black. Oh, it's 2 a.m. Guess I'll go to bed. Or I walk out and I'm like, oh, it's daylight. Cool. Have some lunch. Like,
Back in
it's
my cave I go.
yeah, I have no idea. I've literally got no idea what's going on in the outside world. And for me, I like that because it takes away a level of distraction.
Yeah.
You know, when you sit at the window and you're like, oh, I could do this, or I could go and take my shirt off and walk around in the sun because it looks really nice out there.
Who does that?
I don't have that distraction because I've got no idea.
Yeah, but you're also that white that you would probably burn if you did that.
Oh, I feel really white at the moment.
Same.
There was a time in my life that I took a tanning agent that is applied via syringe,
The rectum.
potentially.
Sunning
And
your anus.
I got so dark that I would tell people I was Samoan and they believed me.
I don't know what it is about your little pocket of the world that has people so like obsessed with like that injectable substance.
Yeah, people love mellow here.
They do, like to the point where like I don't think I've ever been anywhere else where it's been as much of a thing. I'm like, you literally live in a beach town.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just go outside.
But the benefit of it as well is it stops you getting sunburnt. You literally don't get sunburnt.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you go outside and you're out there for, 3, 4, 5 hours, you're like, this is incredible. Like, what a nice day. And then you come inside and you're like, holy fuck, I'm burnt as shit. And then you put aloe vera spray on your body for the next 4 days and hope that it doesn't peel and it's excruciatingly painful. When you take enough mellow, you can go out in the sun all day, direct sunlight. You come inside that afternoon and you're burnt. Like, you do get burnt and you're like, oh, I'm burnt. That's a bit sore. And you spray aloe vera spray on it. You go to bed, you wake up the next morning, your sunburn is now brown.
See, that's just
And
me.
you have no pain, you have no redness. You're just like, oh, sunburn has disappeared. Perfect.
That's like I had that where like especially like when it's like the first warm hot day of spring, um, I'll go outside obviously after winter and be like fairly white. First day in the sun, it's like cool. I go red after day one. And I wake up like the next day and I'm like, oh sweet, like I'm brown now.
Yeah.
Like I tan really easily.
I used to when I was taking mellow, not so much anymore.
I don't take mellow, so mine's al natural.
I'm thinking about doing it again. Just a little bit.
Mm.
Dude, you would be surprised. Okay. Mellow is like this hot topic, right? And it's like this new kind of like in vogue fashion thing over the last few years.
Mm-hmm.
I consider myself like a hipster of the mellow world.
You're like, I used to take mellow before it was cool.
Yep, exactly. I did.
Mm.
The first time I took mellow was before I moved to America. So I've been back in Australia for 5 years now,
Mm-hmm.
and I was over there for 12.
Mm.
So, and I took it when I lived in Brisbane the second time, and tanning salons was still a thing. And I would take it and go to the tanning salon. I would do 1 hour in the tanning bed every single day for 2 weeks. And I was brown, like proper brown.
Mm.
That would have been 20 years ago.
Mm.
I'm the mellow hipster.
That should be your new Instagram handle.
Just call me Macklemore. I'm basically Macklemore of melanotan.
Pretty much.
Bro, I was taking melanotan when it was Mellow 1. None of this Mellow 2 shit.
Yeah. The OG
Nah.
stuff.
Yeah, the OG stuff that made your face peel.
Mm.
It did actually make your face peel.
I'm sure that was fantastic for your body.
Oh, well, probably not the worst thing I've done, is it?
Probably not.
But yeah, it was an experience, that's for sure.
I can imagine.
Got dude, I am tired this morning.
Same.
This morning recording thing. Let's not make a habit of this.
Well, it's funny. Like, if I think about like what time, like, because what time would be like ideal recording time for you? 'Cause I'm curious as to what it would be like between you and me.
Like, I like the mid-afternoon time. I
Mm.
feel like I'm hitting my stride. If I had my choice,
Mm.
it'd be like midnight.
Yeah.
If we went like midnight to 3 a.m., that would be ideal for me, but that's pretty unrealistic when other people are involved. Like, there's no chance you're staying up till 3 a.m.
No,
Like, there's that's not even a slightly a chance.
actually,
So
no. There would be a chance. So if we had a sponsor that was gonna be like, "Hey, look, guys, we're gonna pay you $1,000 an episode." Fuck yeah, I'll do it.
yeah, well, that then becomes your income. That's
Yeah, I'll do
so.
shit for money.
So if we're talking about like the ideal time that's
Plausible.
realistic and plausible, I would say that mid-afternoon time is. I feel really like coherent. I've had a bunch of food. I've had a bunch of coffee. I've got some shit done for the day, so I don't feel um, that little like anxiety tick in the back of my head, like, oh, like you've got some shit to do today.
Mm.
Like, how are we going to fit this in? Which I don't have today because my day today is already pre-planned and it's a lot of in-person stuff
Mm-hmm.
that is happening post podcast. But generally in the morning, I like to just be really productive so that I can do the stuff in the afternoon and not have to stress about it. What about you?
I think it's like the complete opposite for me. Like, I would love to do like midday.
Yeah, midday's not bad. I don't
Like
mind midday.
if we did like either like a 12 till 3 or like a 1 till 4, like that would be sweet for me because like I get up in the morning, I do like admin and emails and shit I need to do. I can go off and train, come home, get some food in, sit down. That's where I feel like really clear and like with it. And then if we go for like 3, 4, 5 o'clock somewhere like that, it's like cool. I can now have like an early dinner and then finish off any work that I need to for the day.
Yeah, we can look at that for sure. I wouldn't mind that. The 1 o'clock would probably be good. 12 would probably be a struggle.
Yeah, I so 1 o'clock would like I would say like like a 1, 2 o'clock start would be like. I mean, it's not that much different to what we're fucking doing now, but
Yeah, it's a couple of hours. That when we first started and we were doing the
like
evening
6 o'clock.
ones,
Yeah,
yeah, that's a bad time for me.
dude, you would have been able to tell. It gets like 7:30, 8 o'clock. I'd be like,
Yeah, that was a bad time for me just because I wanted to eat dinner,
hmm,
and that's the time because Em goes to bed pretty early,
hmm,
so that's kind of the time where I stop work for a little bit and go and just hang out for like an hour or two in the lounge room with her and just chat and talk about our day, whatever. Do the husband thing, and then I put her to bed, and then I come back to my cave.
hmm.
Except last night I didn't come back to the cave because I've been training very early, and what that does is makes me tired late.
Yeah.
It makes me really freaking tired, man.
So what time did you go to bed last night?
By the time I got home from training and ate dinner, did the dishes, I think it was 10.
Mhm.
but that's pretty early for me.
Yeah.
So like I put Em to bed as soon as I got home, and then I came out, hit my dinner up, ate my dinner, caught up on messages and stuff that I missed while I was at training, cleaned up the dishes from dinner, had a shower, and then came to bed. So it was about 10.
Yeah.
But like usually I would do that, have a shower, come to my office and do like another stint. But I was like, dude, I just don't have it in me tonight,
Yeah.
which is okay.
Mm.
It's nice with prescript ending. I feel like I have a lot of time back.
Yeah. Because were you doing labs as well?
Uh-huh. I watched every single video
Mm.
every week.
Mm.
So I did the live call. If I could jump into Max Labs, I did. I did that a few times. I jumped into Jordan's lab twice,
Mm-hmm.
Genta, which was 12:30 a.m. lab.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I watched I watched all 4 lectures back every week and all 4 labs. So that's 8 hours a week plus the live call,
Mm.
9 plus the live lab, 10. It's about 10 hours a week of stuff that I was literally like actively watching
Yeah.
that I don't have to do anymore.
Mm.
Which it's a lot of hours, man. You can get a lot done in 10 hours. So
Certainly can.
kind of feel like I've got some time that I can fill with other things now, which is cool.
Mm.
It was a really good 17 weeks though.
Fucking oath it was.
Very good. Very beneficial. I had someone ask me late last week if they should do the intake that just started yesterday, Monday.
I have a feeling I know who that is.
You do.
Yeah, because they messaged me and
And,
asked as well.
yeah, and I said absolutely you should, for sure. Like if you can make it work,
Yeah.
it will pay for itself before you know it, just in terms of like how you're able to help people and how you're able to speak about your craft and think about things.
Mm-hmm.
It will definitely, I think everyone should do it, to be honest.
I'd agree.
If you're a coach or a clinician, I think there's benefit to it.
Absolutely.
It's a fucking cool course. It's the best one I've done.
Well, I mean, like, this is the second time I've done their level one. I mean, like, I did their level one back in 2020. And then I'll sit down and, like, redo it. It's like, oh, like, realizing how much it does actually push you along after a couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
It's wild.
Yeah, it's a great. I put it up there. Obviously, I talk about doing Will's powerlifting mentorship a fair bit. I rate that really, really highly for anyone that wants to be a powerlifting specific coach. I think that that's a really, really, really good quality thing to invest in. I got a ton out of that. It's not,
Yeah.
it's. I've done a few. That's by far the best in that space, and he puts a lot into that, and I really do value it and rate it really highly. For what Prescript focuses on, that's unparalleled, I think, as well. It's really such a valuable resource.
Yeah.
It's a nice way to look at things as well.
Yeah.
Because when you think about, I love coming at things from the aspect of let's look at action and also function, and let's understand that if we're trying to tell people to train and move solely based on action out of a textbook, on like this is origin to insertion or this is attachment to attachment, this is the only thing that this muscle does, like people don't move like robots and things don't happen in isolation
Mm-hmm.
often, especially in sport. If we're speaking athletically, like we're not sitting on a preacher curl only moving biceps. Like everything that we do has a down chain and an up chain effect that needs to occur for that skill to be accomplished.
Yeah.
So being able to look at function and go beneath the muscle and look at the joint actions that need to occur for specific tasks to be completed, and then thinking like, okay, what muscle functions need to occur for these joint actions to happen is a really cool way of framing things.
Yeah.
Very useful.
Yeah. 100%.
So I'm very grateful for that,
Very good.
but also excited to get the 10 hours back.
I'll bet. How's your week?
Yeah, week's been good, man. Week's been good. What have we done this week? Yeah, I mentioned to you just before we started recording that I've started training early in the morning, which is nice. Back to that routine. That's a routine that I had that I really liked, that I've utilized multiple times throughout the years. And every single time that I've implemented first thing in the morning, like early morning training, every time I've done it throughout my life, I've enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
And then for whatever reason, I'll go away from it and I'll enjoy training at other times of the day less.
Mm-hmm.
But for whatever reason, it might just work better during that period. Every single time I go back to morning training, within a week, I'm like, oh, dude, I should never stop doing this. This is the time of day that I enjoy training the most, and it just works for me.
Mm-hmm.
Some people hate it, some people love it. Working in gyms, you see the same people that come in and do the early morning sessions. It's the same crew
Mm.
years and years on end. Like if you're a morning trainer, I think you're just a morning trainer. For me, it's just always works. So going back to that this week has been really nice, and it usually takes me a week to get back into the groove of things. But I literally went yesterday for the first time, and straight away, yesterday was highly productive, really enjoyable, and came to bedtime, and I was like, I'm actually tired. I feel like I could go to sleep right now, which I did. I woke up this morning having had probably the best night's sleep that I've had in a very long time. Woke up energized, went to the gym again this morning super early, and I was like, I'm back in routine already. Like it took me one day, and I was like, yeah, this is the right thing for me.
Yeah.
And today I even trained just on a coffee, which is
Nice.
another thing that M hates it because like scientifically, like you need to fuel for your sessions and you need to this, you need to that. I don't know. There's something about just training really early, empty stomach, coffee. For me, I like it.
If I think back to, geez, this is going back like nearly 15 years ago. I used to train early morning sessions with one of my best mates who now lives in the States. And we would train like twice a week, Tuesday, Thursday mornings. I think we would get to the gym at like 5:45 in the morning, train from like 5:45 to like just after 7, go off. He'd go off to work. I'd go off to work or TAFE, wherever I was at the time. And literally, like, we would rock up. We would take like a scoop of the original jacked pre-workout, like before
Hell
it got
yeah.
banned, like the OG shit.
Yep.
And like that would get us through sessions. And there was something about training in the morning on a bit of caffeine, but training fasted more or less, where I was like, fuck, like I just felt like annoyingly good on it.
Yeah, I feel good too. I mean, I've played around with shakes first thing in the morning as well, which I that would be my go-to option if I could be bothered.
Mm-hmm.
I would do like a shake with a banana and some carb powder and some protein and a bit of protein milk or something like that. That would be my go-to. But in saying that, I also can't be bothered. So I think there's validity sometimes in being like, okay, what's realistic for you?
Mm.
And that can also be a really good option because it's like, would I train better like that? Probably, but also if I can't be bothered, then it might just be more of a hassle than what it's worth. Like, is the difference going to be negligible?
Well, I know for me, if I'm having to train early in the morning, like I can't. I mean, fuck, I can't have the sensation of like food in my stomach when I'm training. It makes me feel really unsettled. So like, if I don't eat within like an hour of training, it's like I know that I either need to like go in probably slightly underfilled and utilize things like Gatorades and stuff like peri workout,
Mm-hmm.
um, or I need to push my training time back so I can get my meal in.
I will say that when I say fasted, it's not completely fasted because I do have a Gatorade on the way to the gym and a Gatorade during the gym. So that's carbohydrates.
Yeah,
There's probably what is there, 40 to 50 grams in a Gatorade.
I
Um,
think it's less. I think it's like 33 somewhere around there.
yeah, so with 30, 40, so there's probably 60 to 80 grams of carbs
Mm.
there that I'm taking in, which is fast acting carbs anyway. So that's probably really a good option.
Yeah.
But in my brain, it's not food.
Mm.
And the cool thing about that is, as well, it's hydration, which you and I both know. If it's not Gatorade, it ain't going in my body.
Gatorade, H2O.
Yeah, man. I'm not drinking water.
Yeah, we know that.
Come
Well,
on,
there's old me here.
fucking nerd. I think nerds drink water. Athletes drink Gatorade, mate. Do you see NFL players drinking
Mate,
water? No. Those guys have got Gatorade tubs full of Gatorade. It's a performance formula.
if we weren't recording, I would come up with a real smart ass comment right now, but I am going to preserve my podcasting career a little bit longer and not say the comment.
I just don't like water, huh?
I don't see. I don't understand how people don't like water. Like, fair enough. Like, if you're drinking tap water, that shit is rank as fuck. But
Oh,
like,
just any water. It's just like,
like I spend money on like a fucking fancy like countertop filter, and I'm like, my water tastes so fucking good.
it doesn't though. It doesn't have a taste.
It does. It tastes clean. It doesn't taste like it's full of
Yeah,
fucking
okay. There you go.
chlorine
So
and
it just tastes like clean water, right? But like water in itself is flavorless. It's just like water, but it tastes like clean, right? So when you go to the bush,
mm,
which we're going to get to in a second, because you did do that again.
mm.
When you go to the bush, do you walk in the bush and you're like, tasty air?
The air smells better in the forest than it does in the city for sure.
You're off your head, man. It's just oxygen, bro.
No,
Like
it's
you're not
not.
just you don't go like, fresh oxygen. Can't
No.
wait to get that in me.
So this is my thing, right?
Do you actually do that?
When I go out into the forest, I'm like, the air smells so much cleaner and better out here. Like, I don't feel like I'm breathing in all of the fucking pollution and all the shit that exists when like you're in suburban built up areas.
You're high.
No, I'm really not.
I think you might be high.
No, I'm not.
Really?
Like, yeah, like when like you're in like suburbs and shit like that, like it, like I'm not gonna say like it smells terrible, but there is a just like a distinguishable difference in smells between when you're like in the suburbs versus when you go out into like a rainforest.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe because there's more trees around and more flowers and stuff. But so think of this. What I'm getting at is you're drinking the water out of your filter and you're like, tastes fresh. I love that. You don't go to the forest and you're like, fresh air, get in my body. I love that. Or do you? You do, don't you?
Yeah.
Oh,
Like
fuck.
when we go out, like when Megan and I go out for a walk, I'm like, fuck, it smells good out here.
Damn it. I thought I had such a solid point there, and you've just fucking debunked me straight out of the gate. You're deeper into this foresting than I ever imagined.
Dude, like, it's funny. Megan and I talk about this probably more than we should, but we always do the whole like, if we won like the $150 million lotto draw that was won by someone in Adelaide last week, like if we won that, like what would we do? And like the first thing that we would do is we would go and find like our dream bush property, and we would build our dream home on that.
Would it be a treehouse?
It would so it would most likely be like a barn, like farmhouse styled house,
Yep.
like wraparound porch, big windows, like a lot of like natural colors in there, a lot of like timbers, a little bit of like steel, that sort of thing. Like it'd be fucking sick. But like that's literally like
Yeah.
when we sort of go, long term, like what's our goal? It's very much like we want to buy a big bush block away from everyone and just turn it into pretty much like a self-sustaining farm where it's like, cool, we can live there and we don't have to deal with society.
But you will have to, though.
Why?
Because, like, how are you going to, like, you can't grow everything.
Why not?
Well, like, what are you going to eat?
We get cattle and we.
Yeah, but like, how are you, like, how you can't grow, like, red frogs. Like, how are you going to, like, what lollies are you going to eat?
Dude, if we won $150 million, I would be like, we're just gonna buy like a lifetime supply of lollies from Allen's, and or we're just like, hey guys, like we're buying X amount of shares in your company as part of our dividend payout. Like we just want you to ship us X amount of lollies to get us through. But at the same time,
Fair call. But, like, how are you going to get power and Wi Fi? Like, Wi Fi. Bro, you can't live without Wi Fi.
dude, if we won $150 million, that's not
Hmm.
exactly a concern.
Just because you have $150 million, like, you can't just Wi-Fi from the clouds. Like, you still have to have
Hey,
infrastructure.
hey, Elon, give me that fucking what is it? The something link.
Yeah, Neuralink, just
Yeah,
Wi-Fi from your brain.
yeah.
Yeah, not a bad option, I
But
guess. But
knowing me,
that's
like,
but then again,
with me, I
that's
was like,
not
don't no,
that's not very hippie-ish of you, is it?
no.
That's not natural. Let's go. Let's think about, is the Neuralink going to that
No.
will
Do you know?
that will that will infiltrate your bush environment. That's
Do you
going to
know?
make it
Honestly,
non-bush.
what I would probably do is I would be like, cool. I'm gonna have 2 days a week where I'm gonna come within range of society that I've got access to like Wi-Fi and internet and all that sort of shit. I'll do my 2 days of work and then I'll go back to the bush for 5 days.
Yeah, that's also
Or
not a bad option.
with $150 million in the bank, I could fucking retire. And it's like, screw you guys, I'm going home.
Yeah, dude, I don't know. I don't know. I like the idea of a rural property.
Mm.
That's something that we would like.
No,
It's
actually,
something that
I,
it's
I
something
haven't.
that we're currently looking at. But it's also like not like I want it within half an hour of a city.
No, I would.
Not so much a city, but like a civilization, so that
Yeah,
I can go there every day. I can go and train at a facility that I enjoy. I can go and do my groceries. I can go out for dinner. I
mm,
can go out for coffee every morning. Like, I want to be able to do shit and
yeah,
then go back to my place.
yeah. So like that's the thing. Like we would probably be looking at it like if obviously like if we had that sort of like 9 figures behind us, rah rah rah. It'd be like, yeah, we have a big beautiful house. I would be building like a state of the art gym, and it'd be like, cool. Like I literally can train at home because I have everything that I would ever fucking need.
Yeah, I would do that too,
And
actually.
then we would also then be like close enough ish where it's like, yeah, we get internet, but then we just get like signal boosters installed somewhere where it's like, cool, like there is a specific part of the house that is going to be like the workstation where like if we need to be online doing shit, we've got access to it.
I'd go if I could choose anywhere. I'd go Gold Coast hinterlands. So I don't know if you've looked too much into that, but it's like rural,
Mm.
but it's also like 20 to 40 minutes from the actual Gold Coast.
Yeah.
So it's like you could go into the Gold Coast, grab a coffee, walk along the beach, no problem. You could go into the Gold Coast, have dinner at nice restaurants, go out, do whatever you need to do, have like a nice night, and then just go home to your rural property. That's very rural,
See,
and
where
and there's like mansions there too. Like, but there's money there, so you wouldn't be out of place.
where we went on Saturday was like a little country town called Newgie. So if you drive probably an hour and a half out from the city, there's a town called Warrigal, and it's just like maybe like I don't know 20-30 minute drive out of there. And we were driving through there, and there's like it's mostly like it's pretty much all regional, so there's like farms fucking everywhere. Obviously, there's the little main towns that have like their little main strips where they've got houses and shit fairly close together. But for the most part, it's all fairly decent farm properties out there. And some of the fucking houses that we drove past, my God, like it's literally people that would have however many fucking tens of acres.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll be like the one house on like the top of the hill that was like this big, like we literally drove past, we're like, that house is the house that we want.
Yeah,
But it's like situated on a hill, and literally it's just like rolling hills as
overlooks
far as you
everything.
can see. And it's like everything's green, everything just looks really lush and healthy. And it's like that just looks like such a lovely place to live. But you're also like, if you want to drive 30 minutes into town, like you're in town.
Yeah, but I like the hinterlands on the Gold Coast because when you drive into town, it's the Gold Coast,
Mm.
which I love the Gold Coast. I'm a big Gold Coast fan. Every time I go there, I'm like, oh, dude, I need to live here again. It's like the restaurants are great. There's so many nice cafes. Everyone's fucking happy because like the weather's sick, the beaches are nice. It's just a cool place to be. So it's like that Gold Coast hinterlands area, it's like you get the best of both worlds. You get the bush serenity, the quietness that Em really likes,
Mm.
the secludedness, and you get the Gold Coast, which I really like. If I had my choice, I'd live in a penthouse suite in a Gold Coast high rise.
Mm.
Like that to me is like my ideal. If do you know Simon Beard, founder of Culture Kings?
Of him, yeah.
Yeah, so he's just moved into a new property, which is a house. So sick. He's got his own private gym and private magnesium steam room and a sauna
Mm-hmm.
and an ice bath, magnesium ice bath, and a spa. He's got everything there. It's on the river where he's got his boats and jet skis docked. It's sick house. Before that, he lived in the penthouse suite of an apartment building pretty much on Cavill Ave, and he had the top 3 levels was his. So it was a 3 level penthouse suite. It was so dope. Like if I had my choice, that's where I'd live because it's like I fucking hate my yard. I hate mowing. I don't like doing it. If I don't have to do it, that would be sick. And if I'm in an apartment that's like as big as a house, it's the best of all worlds. And then I can just go downstairs and I'm in the middle of the city.
Yeah,
That's
see,
perfect for me.
I couldn't think of anything worse for me. Like if
And you look out your window and you can just see the ocean, the sunsets. Like, dude, that's incredible. But Em's like, that hell no, there is no chance that we will ever do that.
yeah, I'm on Team M.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you know how it goes. It's like I can have all the dreams I want in the world, but like happy wife, happy life. So at the end of the day, whatever she says goes. And I'm more than happy with that. But if I had my option, it would be penthouse apartment for sure. Every day of the week.
Yeah. So like if I had like 20-30 acres, I'd be fucking stoked with that.
Think of all the mowing.
Dude, you have livestock for that.
Think of all the poo.
Yeah, but think of how good quality the soil would be and how much
I
stuff
don't
you could
think
grow.
about soil. ever.
Because the thing is,
Never. The
I
only
fucking
time
love
I think
mowing.
about soil is when I'm halfway through a GHD and I feel like I'm about to soil myself.
Yeah, like because I like mowing, like especially like if you get a ride on mower and you can just sort of like whiz around on the fucking do your thing. Like you get your lawns mowed really fucking quickly, um, and then it becomes really easy to get that done. I don't know why this isn't fucking refocusing. There we go.
There you go.
Um, but yeah, like even like my grandparents have a property out a little bit more regional, and they're on I don't know maybe like a quarter of an acre,
Mhm.
somewhere between sort of a quarter and a half acre, and on the rider mower, you literally get that done in like less than 10 minutes.
That's not too bad, I guess.
Yeah. So if it was like, oh, cool, like I've got like, say, like 3 acres that I need to mow and it takes me an hour, and it was literally just going like up and down, like easy.
What about all the like nature stuff, though?
What do you mean, all the nature stuff?
Like there'd be wild animals around. It'd be
How?
horrible.
Why?
Like animals, like in your space, like bugs and like reptiles and like kangaroos and stuff. That wouldn't bother you.
Dude, I used to own a snake.
Yeah, I mean, I like it if it's in a tub,
Yeah.
but like not just like in my living room because it got bored and wanted to just come chill.
It's the big difference between places like Queensland and in Victoria. Is in Victoria you don't really get like snakes and shit that just like decides like come and shack up in your lounge room.
What about flies? When you guys go to the bush, is there a lot of flies?
No, at
Okay,
least
that's cool.
like when we're going at the moment when it's a bit colder, there's not a lot of flies because I fucking hate flies.
Oh, I hate them. I hate
It
them so
might be a little
much.
bit different come summer, but like for now,
You're all
it's
good.
it's pretty good.
Okay. What about leeches?
See, Megan fucking hates leeches.
Yeah, no shit. I don't blame her.
So like anywhere that we go, she'll like research it first. And be like, is there a risk of leeches here? Because she's like, if there is, we're not going. I'm like, okay.
If there is, we're not going.
She pretty much she plans all of our like adventures and shit on the weekends. Which like I'm like,
I can't wait till she makes you run 100 Ks.
oh, I've so even where were I think it was on Saturday. Like there was like a pine plantation that we sort of went to because there's like a few campgrounds up around that way that we want to stay at. So like we'll go have a look. And she's like, oh, I want to go for a walk up into the pine plantation. I'm like, all right, cool. She's like, oh, come on, like we'll just run up here.
Nope.
I'm
We're
like,
walking.
we had this discussion. I'm like, I will support you. I'll come along to your races. But I'm like, the only caveat to it is don't ever ask me to run.
I can't wait till you run. You're going to run for sure. It'll start slow.
If so,
Like, does she ever get to the bush? Here's the thing, right?
mm,
Here's what I'm thinking. We're heavily entrenched in strength sports.
mhm.
And when you're strong, what do we see a lot of people do when they're competitive powerlifters, competitive strongman? They want to show that strength at every opportunity. So they'll just be walking around in random environments, see something heavy and be like, I can pick that up, and just lift random heavy things in the world
Mm.
just because I can, so I'm going to. And this is how I'm going to assert my dominance. I'm going to pick up this rock in the bush. So, like, we see it all the time. Like, fuck, I used to do it all the time. Like, well, there's a heavy thing. I'm going to pick up this fucking bird feeder thing just made out of concrete because it's heavy and I'm strong.
Mm.
And I'm like, yeah, look at me. I picked up a bird bath. Yeah, strong man. So, like, she runs a lot. She's very good at running. A lot of her runs are in the bush.
Mhm.
So, when you guys go to the bush, how much of her natural instinct is like, I need to run? I think there's going to be a little voice in there saying run, at least a little bit.
And there might be, and we kind of have a way that we might be able to bridge that gap a little bit.
Because what I'm thinking is going to happen is she's going to be like what happened the other day. Oh, her voice in her head is like, Bush, run. I need to run. I need to do a little run. Run, run. Assert dominance. You can run. And she's going to be like, Ben, let's just run up there really quick and take a photo with that mushroom. And it'll be like a 10-meter run and you'll run up there. And then she'll be like, tick. Next week, it'll be like, oh, Ben, there's a really nice pine tree over there. Let's just run over and take a photo. It's 25 meters. And you're like, okay. And you like run it, tick. And before long, she's going to be like, Ben, let's go on a 100K bush run. And you're going to be like, oh, okay.
No. No, so a lady at her gym gave her a mountain bike. And like quite a good...
A proper one.
Yeah, like the bike's worth a couple of grand.
Nice.
So she's like, if we bought that, she's like, would you ride alongside me while I run? I'm like, probably. Because if you're like, hey, I'm going to go on a 20K run, for me to ride 20K, like that's not hard.
Especially and mountain bike is fun.
Yeah. I'm like, that's a little gap that I feel like I could bridge. So if she's like, hey, look, I'm going to go running up at the Redwoods. Like, I'd be like, fuck yeah, like I can ride a mountain bike through that shit.
Yeah. Yeah, mountain biking is quite fun.
Yeah. So I'm like, that I feel like is probably the extent of how far that gap will be bridged. But like, I won't be fucking doing a 20K run through the bush. Not a fucking chance.
I don't know, dude. That sounds like a first step to me. That to me sounds like grooming.
Nah.
That's what that is. That's exactly what that is.
Even back when I was younger and I used to do my track, I used to play basketball. When school cross country would come around, I would run like, I remember there was a cross country event that I did when I reckon I would have been like 10. And I think it was like a 3.2K run. I literally got 400 or 500 meters into that race. And I was like, I'm so fucking bored. Like, can I just stop? And they're like, no, you have to keep running. You have to finish it. I'm like, why? I've literally never been the kind of person who likes anything that's endurance based.
Yeah, see, I've done it. I like it personally.
Like, the only time that I would ever really push myself into sort of any sort of endurance was when I was playing basketball, because I was very good defensively, and there were only a couple of people in the country that could actually play effective defense against certain people, and I was one of them. So there was times when like we would have to play defense. It was called like a box one defense, where we play like a 4-man zone, and then I pretty much just like follow this person around like a pain in the ass all fucking game, and that was my role. Mm-hmm. They would pretty much play like a 4-man defense, and I would just try and drag a player away from it, and then like if I had the opportunity to shoot a 3, like I would. But pretty much like when it came to us playing defense, it was like my job was pretty much like, if like let's say you were the other guy that I was playing against, it was like, I'm literally just going to follow you around, and I'm going to stop you scoring, I'm going to stop you catching the ball, and I'm going to stop you doing your job. That's all I have to do. Everything else doesn't matter. It's just be a pest. So there's one guy in particular that we would do that against, and this is a guy who at the age of 13 would get like 16 and a half on beep test.
Nice. That's a good test. That's a good test score.
It's a great test score, but it's a fucking cunt to play against because I would be lucky to get 11.
Yeah. Yeah.
So literally,
it's a great test score.
It's for a 13-year-old kid, it's unreal. But my coaches would literally look at me and be like, if you need a breather, let us know. We'll call timeouts. And I'm like, I'll see how I go.
Or 10 seconds in. Breather.
Yeah. But they would literally, like, there were some games where, like, I would be delirious by the end of the game. I'm like, I have nothing left to give. Like, I'm so beyond cooked. But they're like, so for example, there was one of the years when we played, like, Vic Championship, which is, like, the highest level you could play at that age. And we played this one team in the semi-finals, and everyone was expecting us to get beaten pretty substantially. Because when we played them during the season, I think we'd lost by, like, 22 points or something like that. And this game that we played against them, I think we beat them by 6. But this guy was averaging like 28 points a game, and he scored like 7 points.
Hell yeah.
And I'm like, cool, I did my job really well.
Yeah. Have you ever heard of the North Face 100? Megan would know what it is. I don't know if they still do it, but that was a really big 100K race through the Blue Mountains.
Yep.
And at one point in my life, I used to do quite a lot of distance running.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to work at a Fitness First, and my manager at the time was training for that.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, yeah, I run a little bit. Like I go for road runs. That's kind of what I do for my fitness.
Mm-hmm.
And so he invited me along as a training partner for him as he was kind of training for this.
Mm-hmm.
And we did some long ass runs, dude. Like, we used to have my dad drop us off at the edge of the bush,
Mm-hmm.
out near it's like out there somewhere. It was near a service station, like not like 20 minutes from where I live.
Mm-hmm.
And you'd kind of go. There was this staircase that would go all the way up this cliff face to the top to a lookout. I'd be surprised if you didn't go there while you were here. It's pretty well known. It's like vertical staircase up this cliff face.
I think we went there, yeah.
It was right near a Shell servo. It was just down the road, but you don't get there from the servo. You just park on the side of the road, walk across the road like into this bush, and then you're like up the staircase.
Mm.
Super nice. But we would get dropped off there, and then we'd say to my dad, pick us up in 8 hours.
Yeah, gross.
Like, be here in 8 hours' time and we'll be ready to get picked up. And we would just run 4 hours in, turn around, run 4 hours out. And we'd do like literally 8 hours of running. And like, that's a lot, man. That's a lot.
Yeah, that's
a lot of running.
Sounds shit.
Yeah, but I didn't mind it at the time. And then that was right before I moved over to the States. And then when I moved over to the States, the guy that I was living with when I first moved over there, he had been training for a half marathon, which is obviously significantly less than that, and on a road, so a lot more stable surface. And I was like, oh, dude, I'll smoke this. He's like, do you want to do it with me? I was like, fuck yeah, I'll do it, no problem. Turns out this half marathon, it's the only half marathon I've ever done. It's called the Healdsburg Half Marathon. It's in Healdsburg, California, which is wine country. And what they do is you're running through wine country. Think Hunter Valley, right? Mm-hmm. Think Hunter Valley, wineries all the way up the roads, all as far as the eye can see. Every winery knew that this Healdsburg Half Marathon was on, and that was a great opportunity to market themselves to everyone that was running past the front doorstep of their winery. So what every single winery along this half marathon did was put out folding tables out the front of their driveway with little wine and cheese samples.
Fuck yeah, I get around that.
Every single winery, bro. So I'm like, get to this race, start running, 10 meters down the road, there's a table with wine on it. I'm like, I like wine. I'll have a sip. Had a sip. I was like, oh yeah, that's good. Tastes good. And I keep running, and I'm just like chilling. This is easy for me because I've been doing 8-hour runs. I'm just running along, nice, easy pace. 10 meters down the road, wine. Have another go. Just keep going. Every single table, I took a drink of wine. No word of a lie. This race started at 6 a.m. By 6:45, I was pissed.
Good.
Proper drunk. I had to stop running because I couldn't see straight. I was literally swerving up the track like this because I was like dizzy. I was like proper drunk. So I was literally like, stop. You're going to walk the rest of the way and you're still going to drink all of the wine. So I walked the rest of the way so that I could not miss a wine table from being dizzy.
Yeah.
And I tasted every single wine along the track. I finished about an hour and a half after the guy that I was going to smoke, because he didn't take any wine. He just ran the race like he had trained for. And I got to the end and I was giggling and dizzy. I couldn't stand up straight. And he was like, bro, what the hell are you? Like, bro, those wines were good. Screw the marathon.
Mm.
That was my only official running race to this point.
Yeah.
Until I beat you in the 100.
Maybe if I gave you like an 80-meter head start.
Well, here's the thing. One of my steps pretty much puts me an 80-meter head start.
Yeah, but like think with how long your legs are, how slow it's going to take you to get there.
No, dude. Bullets. Working on that leg speed.
Let's go with that.
So we've got a few questions that we're going to ask today. Today's episode is going to be a question and answer episode, which I think is going to be cool that we can start to maybe schedule these in every so often.
Yeah.
And just give people an opportunity to kind of rapid fire as many questions as they can at us. Then we can kind of give our 2 cents on the topic. Feel free to go as deep as you would like on the topics, or as shallow as you would like on the topics. There's quite a few questions, so there's going to be some that no doubt we have opinions on. And then what I was thinking is at the end of this episode, we can kind of take it offline and have a discussion around what are some of the questions that we touched on today that we might want to expand upon a little bit more, and then we can take those and make them a standalone episode, and we can go even deeper on our thoughts on those topics.
Yeah.
But I think if we can use every so often to schedule in these rapid fire question and answer episodes, it's a really good opportunity for people to just shoot questions at us and have us, without too much thought behind it, give our first takes, I guess. Like, what's your first take when I say this question? It's the first thing that comes to your head, with no prior planning involved. Thoughts, questions, concerns?
I think that's a good plan.
Cool.
Before we get into it, I need to piss. So give me 1 sec.
All right.
And we're back.
We are back. Okay, question number 1. There's a few really good ones in here too.
Cool.
Question number 1: cookie cutter. I'm not going to ask. So, cookie cutter programs, 5 through 1, starting strength, 5th set or cube, etc. I reckon let's leave that. And
Standalone
what I'll
episode.
do, yeah, we'll do a standalone episode on it. But what I'm also going to do is I'm going to DM this person and just ask for a little bit more context around the exact question that he's asking involving those, because. Yeah, that's much more of a statement than a question. So I'm not really sure around like what angle he'd like us to attack that at. But yeah, my first thoughts on that are 5-3-1 is definitely top tier out of those options. And I've run it a whole bunch, and I actually don't mind it. There's a few variations that I would make to it personally, but I think if we do that on a standalone episode, it'll be really interesting. Powerlifting federations and where you think they're headed. You can kick this one off.
Uh, well, I mean, like I look at it and I go, I think we've seen as a trend in the last couple of years in particular, like sleeve powerlifting is really taking off like fucking hotcakes. I
Mm-hmm.
don't think wraps is dying or dead. I just think it's in a little bit of a downturn at the moment, but I don't think it'll go anywhere. Like I think it'll always be a a concept that will always hold true. But if we're looking at federations at the moment, in particular here in Australia, that are really just taken off, I think there's no question around it that APL is where it's at.
Mm-hmm.
I think the guys at Zero have done a fantastic job in terms of facilitating like a really good competition environment. Obviously they offer sleeves and wraps. They offer tested and untested. Like they're kind of covering all bases in terms of I think what powerlifters want. Um, I think that's probably going to be the dominant federation moving forward. Like obviously down here in Melbourne, USAPL is pretty popular as well, but I still feel like APL will be the dominant federation. I'll be really curious to see how APA does, given that they have their IPF affiliation. Obviously, that'll draw in a large percentage of tested lifters who want to compete at Worlds. There's just, a couple of people who obviously qualified based off the nationals they ran the other week, a couple of months ago.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a good feeling that as a whole, I think APL will be like the main driving force in terms of like competitions run, people at competitions, total membership base. Like I think they're going to be quite dominant for a while. But I'll be very curious to see how the sleeved only federations go in terms of like APA versus USAPL and which one of those two kind of like dominates the space.
Yeah, I have a similar take. Um, Maybe slightly different, but very much along the same lines. Obviously, I agree that sleeved powerlifting is dominating at the moment,
Mm-hmm.
and I've had a few discussions around this topic with people of late, and the numbers don't necessarily paint a picture of wrapped declining. But my argument is always numbers don't always paint a true picture.
Mm.
It's a feeling. It feels to me like the hype around powerlifting is in the sleeved division, and the talk around powerlifting, the hype around powerlifting, all of the excitement and the progression is coming from the sleeved lifting side of it. And I
Yep.
feel like although the numbers might not necessarily represent a quote unquote decline in wrapped lifting, it feels like it's a decline. Does that make sense? It's almost like an intangible thing where you can't quite put your finger on why. It just feels like there's not as much excitement, there's not as much hype, there's not as much talk. A lot of big lifters are making the switch to sleeved. There's a lot more younger lifters, newer lifters coming into the sleeve division. There's a less barrier of entry.
Do you want
People
to
are
know what
putting
I
up
reckon it
insane
is?
numbers. It's a vibe, to quote the kids.
I reckon, like, if we're looking particularly like here in Australia, I think one of the big factors is, again, if you go back like 5 years ago, like down here in Melbourne in particular, like, PTC South Melbourne, it was a powerlifting gym. They had a powerlifting team. There were gyms that were like, yeah, like we are a powerlifting gym and we take a powerlifting team to events. I feel like because a lot of like if it's a powerlifting, like so again, we use Interperformance as a great example. Um, like I'm fortunate enough, like I can do like a lot of powerlifting coaching out of there. Like I would have like my Mac Performance team that operates out of Interperformance, but it's not Interperformance as a powerlifting team. It's my team that then trains out of there. Because a lot of places are quite dispersed in terms of like that team training environment. Like you think about raps, like when I was living up your way and like I would come in, I'd like rap you. How
Mm-hmm.
much easier was your session when I was there to rap you? And then when you
100%.
had people around to spot you. When
Mm-hmm.
people, and again, not to say that you can't do it on your own, because again, I think Pat Morrison's a great example of, you can still hit some fucking outrageously big numbers self-rapping and doing it on your own without spotters, all that sort of jazz. I
Yeah,
still
he's
think that
also an outlier.
he's a freak. But I think like not having that environment around you, be like, oh, like I know I'm going to go into training. I'm going to have someone there to wrap my knees. I'm going to have people that are going to spot me. And I know that that's going to be there consistently because our training times are this every single time. I feel like that is a big like barrier to entry for a lot of people, especially with something like raps where it's like it is quite challenging to be like, one, is the person who's rapping you actually know what they're doing? Can they do a good job at it? And two,
Mm-hmm.
it's like, can you handle the discomfort? Like raps are not comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
There is an element of like, yeah, it's gonna suck, but you know what's also gonna suck? Trying to put a fucking heavy barbell on your back and squat down and stand back up with, like, that's also uncomfortable. It's like you add the layer of raps on top of that. It's like, yeah, it's very challenging.
Yeah, and so my it's not an argument, but my kind of perspective on it is always, although the numbers don't support the statement that wrapped lifting is declining at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
I was involved in powerlifting in 2011 when it was predominantly equipped lifting, and that was right around the emergence of this raw movement kind
Mm-hmm.
of intercepting the powerlifting world. And at the time, there was a huge influx of lifters and excitement generated around raw powerlifting.
Yep.
It didn't necessarily correlate with a decline in equipped lifting at the time
Mm.
because it was just that transition period where it's like people are looking at it going, well, that's pretty cool. The new lifters are coming in, they're doing raw. The equipped lifters that were doing equipped kept doing equipped. Some people came in and did equipped, but the majority came in and did raw. And it was just this transition period where the raw numbers didn't decline, but the equipped numbers didn't decline, but the excitement was all around the raw side of things. Eventually, that transitioned into the equipped numbers drastically declining, and raw basically like raw with wraps basically being this is what powerlifting is now.
Mm-hmm.
And now the equipped lifting, which once was at the forefront, is now like a fringe aspect of the sport. And I can see the same sort of thing happening now, where it's very early on in that transition process, and you can point to the numbers and the statistics and say, statistics say that wrapped lifting isn't declining. It's just there is an incline or increase in sleeve lifting. But I think as that process continues to evolve, we will see a decline happen in the wraps and a much more of an emphasis be put on the sleeves, which personally I'm not mad about. I'm a huge fan of wrap lifting, but I also think sleeve lifting is fucking cool. And when you can put up big ass sleeved squats, I think there's something inherently badass about that. So I'm not mad about it, but I do think it's something that is happening at the moment. And
Mm.
if you're if you're looking, or if you're in charge of a federation, or if you're looking to be in charge of a federation or start something to be involved in powerlifting, I think that's definitely the what you need to look at. That's what I would
Yeah.
be looking at. And at the federations that are looking at that, APL, APA, are the ones that have the energy and the excitement behind them at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
They feel like they're, from a vibe perspective, the two that are dominating. I love going to APL meets.
Yeah, they're good fun.
As a coach, I think they're unrivaled.
Mm.
I love coaching at APL meets. I think they're very well run. The judging's pretty good, pretty consistent. It's getting better every single time I go. A lot of the gyms that are affiliated with APL, I really like going there. They put great meets on. They have really solid meet directors. It's a cool system. Personally, I think that's definitely the place to be at the moment. I'm also pretty impressed with APA
Mm.
from the perspective of I think already from the outside looking in, because I'm not involved in it on the inside,
Mm-hmm.
but from the outside looking in, it's already levels ahead of the previous IPF affiliated federation in Australia.
Yeah.
And the hype that they build around it, their social media, their marketing team, the way they highlight their athletes, their branding, their message. I think they're nailing all of it,
Mm-hmm.
and they're really hitting their market well.
Yeah. I really hope that they do a good job. Like, we haven't had like a good IPF affiliate body for a long time.
Mm.
So I really hope that these guys do it properly.
Mm. First impressions are pretty good,
Mm.
but again, like I said, it's an impression from the outside looking in. But from what I can see, they're saying and doing all the right things. So
Yeah.
that's a good start. Yeah, closing note on that is I'm a huge APL fan. I think they're crushing it at the moment, and I'm keen to see them go, like, continue and see how far they can take this thing and how big they can build it, because there's a lot of excitement around that federation at the moment,
Mm-hmm.
which is a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're doing a few things differently. Again, their marketing and their messaging, everything they're doing, I'm like, okay, this feels good. This passes the vibe check.
Fucking kids
Am I
these
getting
days.
that right? Is that a thing?
I don't know, man. I'm
I'm
like
gonna
I'm the worst person to ask.
I'm gonna roll with it.
Just do it. Claim it.
I'm gonna roll with it. We've got okay coming into winter. And are you okay? Are you happy to move on from that one?
Yeah.
Cool. Coming into winter, more flus and colds are coming on. What type of things would you suggest to your clients to both prevent and support during those times? Supplements, training, etc.
So I think we'll just obviously like put a caveat on this. Like, this isn't medical advice. This is just advice from meatheads.
Me have math.
Yeah. The way I would approach it is obviously making sure that your diet is supporting like overall health, and obviously making sure that you're not eating foods that are like overly inflammatory, so that the body doesn't have to work harder at multiple things. Obviously making sure that you're getting enough sleep, getting enough hydration in. Nick, I'm looking at you. Um, and then, like, from a training perspective, like, I don't see why much should have to change. I think you just train as you normally would. Obviously, being mindful of hygiene. Like, if you're sweating on equipment, like, wipe it down. Like, don't fucking cough over people when they're training. Like, just basic, decent things that like people tend to fucking forget. From a supplement perspective, I'm quite fond of Armor Force by Bioceuticals. I think it's a really nice, well-rounded immune support function supplement that I use quite a bit. But if you are looking at individual stuff, I would probably look at things like, vitamin D, zinc, and potentially B vitamins as well.
Mm.
Again, not medical advice in any stretch of the imagination. I'm not going to say how much to take of the above subs. Like, it's just going to be like, do some research, like speak to someone who is actually trained and qualified to advise on this stuff. in terms of like dosage levels and that sort of thing. But that's probably where I would look at it, like a very generalized approach. Like, like I've got a couple of clients at the moment who are a bit under the weather, and it's like, look, I'm again, like I always preface it with like, look, I'm not a doctor, but this is generally what I do when I'm unwell. It probably won't hurt if you do something similar, but
Mm-hmm.
you're an adult. Like, make
Make a
a make
decision.
an informed decision based on information you have at hand.
Yeah. I think there's probably. Would you train, or would you suggest training, or would you personally continue training if you were sick, or would you go down the route of like take a rest day, try and recover, come back and train?
I think it depends on the level of sick. Like, when I got crook a couple of weeks ago, I was like, I'm not training. Like, I couldn't really get up from bed, go to the kitchen to make a coffee without getting to the kitchen and being like, oh, I feel dizzy. Like, that for me is probably a good sign. Like, training is probably not on the cards.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, like, if you're like, oh, I've got like a bit of a runny nose, like, you can probably train through that. I would just be very mindful of like, if you are blowing your nose, if you are coughing, like, just being very mindful of hygiene. And obviously, if you are touching things, like, like, just be considerate. Like, don't be a fucking slob and fucking like spit and cough and piss and shit all over things in the gym. Like, be respectable.
You have such an issue with hygiene, don't you?
I do.
Are you a germaphobe?
No.
See, because I couldn't give a shit about that. Hey,
Like,
cough on the bench. I don't care. I'm just going to lay on it anyway.
like I don't really care. Like, my thing is more around like, I'm a I'm a bit of a stickler on hygiene when it's relative to smell.
I've noticed that. I have noticed that about you,
Like, if I go into a room and I'm like, someone stinks, like, ugh.
brother. Ew.
Brother, ew.
I love that sound.
So fucking good. But yeah, like,
Um,
even like, if I like walk through the supermarket, if I can smell you from 2 aisles over, bro, go have a shower.
hmm.
Put some
Some
fucking
people are
deodorant
just
on.
some people are just anabolic, man. They can't
No,
help it.
there's a difference between being anabolic and there's a difference between just being a stinky cunt.
No, I agree.
Like, and I would say that, like, I mean, like, I know people who are a lot worse than I am. Um, like, I wouldn't say that I'm like a full blown spaz when it comes to that, but I'm like, if it's annoying or uncomfortable, like, I'm like, I do not want to be there.
I can put up with a lot. I just kind of, I try not to let stuff like that bother me too much.
Nah, fuck that. Like, the way I look at it, like, if I'm going to the gym, like, I shouldn't have to smell someone that smells like they haven't showered in a week.
but what about free choice? Like, what if that person doesn't want to shower?
Then don't come to a public setting, you dirty fuck.
But like, like they're allowed to. They can do whatever they want.
Yeah, but there's
Just
like,
like what if people hate beards and they're like, how fucking dare you come to the gym without shaving your face today?
if I had like fucking shit growing in my beard and it was unhygienic, fair enough.
No, but like, what if someone just didn't like beards?
There's a difference between having a dislike towards facial hair and having a dislike towards bad body odor because someone doesn't understand basic hygiene practices.
How? What if someone's like, did you shampoo your beard this morning? Don't. It's
Okay, so for
unhygienic.
example, if someone doesn't like my beard, they can face the other way and it no longer impacts them. I can turn the other way and
You could wear a peg on your nose.
I'm still going to smell it. If I talk to you, like, I'll taste that in my mouth and it's not a nice taste.
I'm just playing devil's advocate here.
No, you're not. No, you're not.
Because like they're allowed to smell if they want. There's no laws against having BO. Like, what if someone's like, I'm not going to use soap when I shower because it's harmful to my skin. Like, I could see you doing that.
What, not using stuff to wash
Well,
myself?
well, I don't know. Like, that's kind of a hippie thing to do.
I'm not that much.
Like when
I'm not a
you, like
dirty
when you
hippie.
live, like when you live in the bush, are
Mm.
you going to want to contaminate your beautiful, pristine bush home with chemicals?
See, this is where like the products that I do use are generally a little bit more
Natural.
less harsh. Yeah.
I knew it. I'm just giving you shit,
Yeah,
man.
I know you are.
I will say on this topic that I won't give any advice either on the podcast or in person to clients around things to eat, supplements to take, etc., to either like get better or prevent sickness. That's like I have a whole wing or department of my business that takes care of that, and that being that M, and that's kind of all encompassing in the service that she provides, and she's much more knowledgeable and qualified in that department to give that advice and to really like help our clients through that, which is something that I know for a fact that she does.
Mhm.
I honest to God, like wouldn't even know like where to start because it's just not something that I'm interested in the slightest. So
Yeah.
I don't know if you've picked up on that yet or not, but if I'm interested in something, I'll go as deep as possible on it. If I'm not interested in it, I just don't give a fuck. So yeah, it's just not something that I know a whole lot about.
Mhm.
So I don't really. I'm not going to give advice on something that I don't know about. But yeah, and Em's very good at that though. So
Yeah.
I'm lucky in that sense that she can kind of take care of that for everyone.
Very lucky.
In terms of training, I'm going to take like a little bit of a multifaceted approach to this and say that it's really going to depend on what phase of training you're in and what your goals are and the timeline that you're working with. And I'm not just going to say it depends and kind of just leave that as a smoke bomb answer and walk away and everyone be like, well, it depends on what? Like, you've given me no answer here. But it really does depend. And the way I look at it, it's going to depend on, are you in a prep? Because one, if you're in a prep, you're working on a very constrained timeline, and there's an amount of work that you realistically need to get done to put yourself in the best position to be ready on the day.
Mhm.
Now you're going to need to juggle, are you capable of doing that work today? Mentally, I think is probably the biggest thing here because here's the way I look at it. If you're sick, it doesn't necessarily reduce your capacity to do the work. It reduces how the work feels.
Mm.
Like you're not weaker. You didn't just automatically get weaker. Like you still have the same amount of muscle tissue. You still have the same ability to use that muscle tissue. It's just going to feel like garbage because you're sick. So what usually feels quite easy might feel quite hard. And I think that perception of how things are feeling can drastically alter how the session goes. So what I'll generally do is I will give more of a range and
Mhm.
I'll say, okay, if your top single today was meant to be 300 kilos, instead of saying 300 kilos, let's say 280 to 300 with an RPE 8 cap
Yeah.
is generally what I'll do. And then you'll just be able to gauge how you're feeling in that moment. Because at the end of the day, if an RPE if a 300 kilos is meant to be an RPE 8 based on kind of how we're tracking, but 280 feels like an RPE 8 today because you're sick, it's still an RPE 8. And that's really all I give a fuck about. I don't really care so much about the specific number on the bar.
Yeah.
I care about getting a stimulus on the day and whatever it requires to do that, that's what we're going to go with. So I'll kind of start off with that and say, like, if you're in a prep, it's going to be a very rare occasion where I say don't train at all,
Mm.
because that really starts to accumulate getting behind the eight ball a little bit in terms of like what we need to get done before the day. If you're on your deathbed, that's going to be a caveat to that, where like you probably, if you can't breathe, you can't train. But in most cases, there's probably something that we can get done that will be beneficial beyond staying at home. If you're not in a competition prep and you have a bit more of a flexible timeline, I will generally leave it up to the client and say, do you feel like you can train? Do you want to train? Is probably the best question to ask. Do you want to train? Because if you don't want to, don't.
Mm.
Because if you don't want to do it, you're going to go in there, you're going to sandbag it and half-ass it anyway. It's probably not going to be worthwhile. If you do want to, let's look at scaling things a little bit, giving you a range, giving you an RPE, getting some stimulus, coming home. Because at the end of the day, you're probably going to feel like shit anyway, whether you train or don't train. So you may as well feel like shit while you're training.
Mm.
But if you don't want to do it, don't do it, because you're not going to put in the effort anyway.
Yeah.
You know, I said that. I mean, I said that to you a couple of weeks ago, right? Like, I'm a fairly firm believer in that because I get migraines quite often. I'm going to have a migraine whether I lay in bed or whether I do a podcast.
Mm.
Like, I still have a migraine. I may as well just have a migraine while I do this thing, because laying down is not going to make it feel any better. It's still going to suck.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of scaling it, I think, to what you're capable of in the moment.
Mm.
That's how I look at it. Being male strength coaches, what recommendations do you give your female clients regarding training to their cycle?
So, again, I think this depends on whether you are competing or not. So I have obviously a number of female powerlifters that I work with. Sometimes competition is going to fall at less than ideal phases of your cycle, and you're going to have to perform either way.
Mhm.
I will generally tend to I have some of my female clients that I like, even in a prep, I'm still going to give them like the heavier and the harder weeks in certain phases of their cycle if it's consistent. Um, like one of my clients in particular, she has a very consistent 28-day cycle. So we can literally program her heavy sessions around that beautifully. She gets
Mhm.
a deload week in the week leading up to her period. She gets a very easy introduction week, the week of her period, and then the 2 weeks after that, we hit the hammer hit the nail really fucking hard, however you want to look at
Mhm.
it. We obviously know that when we then do start like a comp prep, that it's like, cool, we will follow this pattern, but understanding that you may have to perform on a day where you don't feel as ready. And that's just a thing that we give her. I have other clients where I'm like, I don't care when your period is. Like, we just train reverse engineered based on when the competition date is. So,
Mhm.
Brooke, right? Elva?
Maybe.
I think
Yeah.
she coaches Em.
Yeah. She coaches Am. That's
Yeah.
Am's coach. Yeah.
So I was meant to be part of like a research group for her PhD. So she's actually done um so her PhD is around essentially like female athletes in like powerlifting and weightlifting and like the impacts of menstrual cycle. So I think like she would be a great person for us to potentially talk about or talk to in regards to this. But I think for me, like, there are obviously some women that have really rough periods and they're like
Mhm.
cooked.
Mhm.
Again, I think from the perspectives that we've sort of spoken about, like, I'm not going to sit there and be like, oh, well, this is how you manage your symptoms. Because I'm like, I'm not a female health expert. Like, I have people that I know that if someone has really brutal periods and they're like, this is debilitating, I'll be like, hey, it probably wouldn't hurt to go and see this person and have a discussion around why it's so bad, and then potentially putting some things into place to help get it back to a point where it's less severe. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I've got a good friend of mine, Olivia. She obviously does a lot around the female health space. I will pretty much, if any of my female clients like having any sort of issues with their periods, whether they be like either not occurring or lasting longer or being really intense, I'm always like, go speak to Liv. Like, she'll get you sorted. I send a lot of people to her because she is, frankly, very fucking good at what she does.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of like the training approach, like I tend to look at it more from the lens of like, cool, like what context are we working in? If we have to be ready for a specific date, we may not have the flexibility to be able to tweak and fine tune things as much as we do. But if we've got a little bit of flexibility and we can take advantage of it in certain weeks when you are going to feel more ready, why
Mm-hmm.
not?
Yeah. I've looked a little bit into this, not like super deep, and there's some conflicting evidence in research from what I can see. Like I said, I haven't gone like too deep into it, but
Mm-hmm.
I've looked into research that says, the whole the common theory or like study, I guess, that there's some weeks that you'll be stronger than other weeks and some weeks that you'll be weaker. And then there's studies that say that is a social construct and that's actually not physiologically what's happening. And that's,
Mm-hmm.
you just are weaker because you feel like you should be weaker, because you don't feel very good. Um, and yeah, to be honest, I don't really pay like a whole lot of attention to it. There's going to be some weeks where it might feel heavier. There's going to be some weeks where it might feel lighter. And at the end of the day, I don't think it really matters all that much,
Mm-hmm.
because if I'm not working with Gen Pop clients, I work with athletes. So within the population that I work with, these females need to perform at any given moment,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of what time of the month it is. So if I'm spending half the year telling them, you're weak this week because it's week 1 or week 4 or whatever, let's deload you or let's have an easy week. And then it's like, oh no, your comp falls on week 1. I've just spent all of this time telling them and reinforcing to them that they need to take it easy this week because it's this time of the month. And now I'm telling them, go max out in this competition. Forget what I've just said for the last 8 weeks. You'll be fine. The last 8 months. So a lot of what I do is more just, I'm going to treat every day and every week like it's the same.
Mm-hmm.
Some weeks are going to feel bad. Some weeks are going to feel good, but that can happen for multiple different reasons. That can happen because you didn't sleep good. That can happen because you're a bit stressed. Work. It's too hot. Period. Like it's not the only thing that's going to factor how training weeks feel. So
Yeah.
for me, it's just like it's another variable that might make things feel a little bit heavier.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, if you're programming numbers in training that all it takes is for you to get your period and you miss that, it's probably too fucking heavy in the first place.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? Like if you're missing training numbers because you have a period, your training numbers are probably too heavy. It shouldn't make that much of a difference. I think you're probably flying too close to the sun,
Mm.
in my perspective.
Yeah.
Because if we look at training from a perspective of we're trying to facilitate adaptations here, we're not just trying to fucking hammer every day, like the podcast that we spoke about last week around balancing our effort and
Mm-hmm.
using training to facilitate adaptations and move along. If you're hitting somewhere around that like 75-85% mark and using that to build strength and kind of increasing total, that's, you should be hitting 75, 80, 85% fairly comfortably regardless of what's happening.
Yeah.
90%, 95%. Now it's like we're going to have to look at some variables. Did you sleep okay? Do you have enough food? What time of the month is it? That's going to probably make a little bit of a difference. But at 75, 85%, I don't, those things are, you're not going to miss the lift. It might just feel a bit harder in my perspective. And I feel like for most people, most of the time, training should be within those ranges that are facilitating adaptations, but are also numbers that you should be able to hit regardless of what's going on. In my perspective.
There's always that little caveat.
Yeah, in my perspective. And like that comes from a perspective of being a man and never having gone through that personally. Mm-hmm. So I have zero reference point around what it feels like, how it affects internally. I don't know. Like all I know is what I've been told. Mm-hmm. So I can only base decisions off what I've been told. That's it. That's all I have. That's the only reference point I have. And here's the other thing. That's my perspective. If someone does come to me and they're like, dude, this is not happening today, who the fuck am I to say, yes, it is? No. I'm going to say, why is that? Why do you think that? Are there other options that we can look at to get a same or similar result that you feel more comfortable with today based on what you're telling me? That's probably the route I'd go down.
Yeah.
Anything else on that?
Like I think for me as well, like even if there is like say conflicting research that says that, like, yes, there's implications, no, there's not implications. I also think like there's an element of like the individual. Like there will be some people that come in like, I feel fantastic when I foam roll for 6 minutes and 20 seconds before a session. It's like, cool. If that makes you feel better, fucking do it. And that's kind of the umbrella that I'll put over. I'm like, if someone has a belief system around, oh, well, if I train to my cycle, I will perform better. Cool. If that makes you perform better, fucking go for it. Understand, though, that the competition date may fall at a time where it's not ideal. As long as you're still willing and able to push on that day, let's go. That's probably the only other thing I would put in top in terms of like considerations.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. Caffeine intake. Can too much be too much? How much caffeine would you recommend to your clients? And how much do you actually intake yourself?
So I think if we are looking at utilizing caffeine as like a performance enhancer, I will generally look anywhere between sort of like 3 and 6 milligrams per kilo of body weight, as a general rule. As far as like, is too much, is there such a thing as too much? Like, yeah, like if you get so jittery that you can't actually perform the task at hand, you've overshot. And whether that is caffeine, whether that is like smelling salts, like anything that is going to have any sort of impact on your system, your ability to focus, your ability to perform, any of that stuff, if it impacts that negatively, it's too much. As far as my caffeine levels go, like, like I drink a lot. The main thing that I will kind of use as a determining factor is like, is it too much caffeine? Is like, 1, does it impact your sleep? And 2, does it impact your guts? Like if like you're taking like real runny shits all the time after you're having coffee, it's like your gut's probably having negative impacts with the amount of caffeine that you're having. But if you take, and I mean, like if you want to know what like a normal shit should look like, go look at the Bristol scale. Like that'll give you an idea as to whether what you're doing is normal or abnormal. But if it's normal there, if you're sleeping well and it's not impacting that,
Is that like two girls, one cup?
No,
What's Bristol?
the Bristol scale is pretty much just like a diagram of like different types of shits. It's like
Oh, okay.
whether you like.
How did you stumble across that? That seems like really fetishy.
No, there's actually so when I did some upskilling with Luke and Zoe from Muscle Nerds,
Mm-hmm.
they obviously talk a lot about like overall health, digestion, all that sort of stuff. So if you and they like that was something that was brought up in one of their things. So
Oh, beautiful.
different kinds of poos.
Sick.
So it's like type one
And you
is.
think I'm weird? You think I'm weird for looking up feet?
I'm not looking up
This
photos
is
of actual shit though, dude. This is cartoon representation. um, but it's like yeah, type one is like separate hard lumps like nuts, and it's hard to pass. Type two is sausage shaped but
come,
lumpy.
man.
Type
Do we need to go through this?
oh, we do. It's
Two
educational.
kind of grosses me out.
Does it give you the shits?
No, it just kind of grosses me out.
But yeah, like getting back to the point of like whether too much caffeine, like if you're having too much caffeine, depending like, if that puts you on like either end of the scale of that, or it negatively impacts your ability to get to sleep slash stay asleep, I would probably look at reducing it. But the way that I kind of look at it, and this was kind of put into context for me a little while ago, was kind of like there are going to be some people that can handle a high level of carbohydrates than other people can. There are going to be people that have a higher threshold to caffeine. You know, like the amount of times that I've had people that are like, they say how much caffeine I drink. They're like, your poor adrenals. They're like, you must sleep like absolute shit. I'm like, I sleep like a fucking wizard.
Sleeping's what I do.
Like sleeping is my specialty.
Yeah.
Um, so like my thing is, yeah, like if I'm having coffee and I'm like, oh geez, like my sleep hasn't been very good, or if I'm having a lot of caffeine, I'm like, oh my guts feel pretty bad. I'll probably back off a little bit, but for the most part, like my guts are good, my sleep's good. I'll just drink caffeine. Like for me, like I don't really hit energy drinks and that sort of thing too hard. Like I will literally just keep like coffee as my primary intake of caffeine, and it's like it's double espressos, it's long blacks, it's just black coffee that I drink. Like I don't have milky coffee or anything like that. So I feel like it's kind of a bit of a there's a bit of context as to like how you're getting caffeine and that sort of thing. Like again, there are like with the basketballs that I do some work with, like there are times like they might have an 8 p.m. game and they might look a little bit flat during their warm ups. I'm like, cool, man, like go have some no-dos, like get some caffeine into you and like perk up a little bit. And that then has a really nice positive effect for them. But it always then becomes a matter of ensuring that they can still get adequate sleep as part of their recovery. So obviously if we give them a note, like one or two no-dos at say like 7:30, and then we hear from them and they're like, dude, I was up till 3 o'clock in the morning, they're probably not going to get two no-dos again at that time of night. They're probably going to look at having, some no-dos at like 4:30, 5 o'clock, and have that try and carry through to get them through the game so that they can still be in bed at a reasonable hour. Like there are certainly ways that I would be looking at trying to time it. Like again, like when you look at the shelf life of caffeine, and then like the impact that it does have on certain systems within the body. I think there are certain things you do need to be mindful of. But I mean, like you hear people talk about the studies going, oh, well, for the first 90 minutes of being awake, you shouldn't have caffeine because the system that it acts on isn't really active yet. I'm like, fuck it. Like, you know what? Like, not everything has to be optimized in life. Like, I literally, like, I wake up and I like my morning routine of going, I go put some filtered water in my gooseneck kettle. I boil my kettle. I do a pour over coffee every single morning. And that process for me is so therapeutic and so nice. And then I get to enjoy a fucking delicious cup of coffee afterwards. And anyone that's going to tell me not to do that can go eat a bag of dicks.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Yeah, M does all that as part of her thing as well, and she has a scale of milligrams per kilogram caffeine and timing it
Mm-hmm.
around training sessions and comp day as well. And I know she does multiple doses during a comp day. I'm not exactly sure how she does it, but yeah, it's the same thing. She'll have like a milligram per kilogram scale that she gives people,
Mm-hmm.
which is a really nice way to make sure you're getting the effect from it that you need, because obviously bigger people are going to require a little bit more than littler people. So having just a blanket like, oh, I have a scoop of pre-workout is not as effective as dosing it specific to your requirements. But again, she does all of that for us. So
Yeah.
again, I'm super lucky. It's not something that I have to think about at all. Personally, I have way too much. I have way too much. But in saying that, it doesn't. I don't. It's just kind of is what it is. I have too much. It's not going to change. There's nothing that you can say to me that's going to make me change because I enjoy doing it. But yeah, generally I'll wake up and have 1 to 2 scoops of pre-workout with 2 no-dos instantly every day.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I get some water in. And then I will have a shower and then I'll have a coffee. Then I'll have another coffee. Then I'll have another coffee. And then I generally have 2 to 3 cans of energy drinks during the day. So I'm usually anywhere between like 1.5 grams and 3 grams of caffeine a day, like throughout the day. But it's just a constant. Like there's not an hour during the day that I don't top up
Mm.
with some form of caffeine, whether it be tablet or liquid in some form. But yeah, it gets topped up every hour, all the way up until the hour I go to sleep. A lot of the time after dinner, if I'm feeling like I want dessert, I'll make a coffee.
Mm.
And then I'll have a coffee and then I'll go to bed. Look, it's just the way I live my life, all right?
Loud and fast.
Live fast, die strong, baby. I've got it tattooed on my arms. But yeah, way too much. It definitely, look, caffeine comes with some incredible performance benefits.
Yep.
Incredible performance benefits. But yeah, they're definitely, for most people, there is too much. I mean, you can quite literally die from having too much.
I think it's like
just
43 or 42 cups of coffee.
No way I could do more than that.
No, there was a thing where it was like, this guy drank like 43 cups of coffee and died. And then like the comment under that is like, so like 41 or 42 is the limit.
I don't know. I reckon I could do 45. I reckon I could do 45.
I would say try it, but I'm like, I also don't want you having an early death. So don't try it.
Especially recently with my newfound health.
Exactly.
As they say, weight, move, weight. Can you actually expand on this and explain the benefits or negatives of having excess weight in a weight class specific sport?
So the whole weight moves weight kind of annoys me.
Hmm.
Like, sure, the big boys are generally strong.
Mm-hmm.
But when you look at how much muscle mass they have to have, because let's face it, like fat isn't contractile.
Mm-hmm.
It is not actually going to do anything in terms of providing meaningful ability to move a heavy object that is going to be muscle tissue.
Correct.
So when people are like, oh, well, weight moves weight, just like put weight on for the sake of putting weight on, I'm like, yeah, you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot because you're actually making yourself for lack of a better term, like a worse athlete, in my opinion.
Mm.
Like, I think if you're trying to fill out, 100, like we've got some friends that are like, that 150, 160 kilo mark, and they're big humans.
Mm-hmm.
Like, again, if we look at, fan favorite of ours here at Bars Loaded, Joe, like
Shout out Joe, friend of the show.
He walks around for comp at like what 152 ish.
Big boy.
It's fucking lean as shit though.
Yep.
Like that is a man where it's like, yeah, like weight is going to move weight because the weight that he puts on is just fucking muscle.
He's not a fat fuck.
No. Like I have known some guys who have, tipped the scales up around that 200 kilo mark. They're also very, very, very strong. But do I think they would have been a better athlete if they were potentially 15 to 20 kilos lighter? Yeah, I do.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if we are looking at weight class sports, like again, I think for this thing we'll kind of like park anyone that is a super. I think anyone that's sort of like 140 and under. I think if you are looking at being the best athlete possible within your weight class, I think the more muscle mass that you hold, the lower body fat percentages that you hold, I think as an overall perspective from, the ability to perform well and the ability to, for, again, this is obviously, there's a little bit of context here, but like to potentially have better health markers in terms of having like less visceral fat around organs, that sort of thing. I think there is a high chance of being a healthier individual if you're holding lower percentages of body fat. Again, not saying that everyone needs to diet and be sub 10% body fat, because like, let's face it, I'm sure as shit not. But like, I think it's just something we need to consider where like, if we are looking at people that are within weight sports, like if there is a higher percentage of muscle mass to body fat, I think you're going to be better.
I would agree with that statement. Definitely.
Like,
So I think there can be a benefit to having more weight on your body, whether it be muscle or fat, just in the sense that in a squat, if you have more of a belly, it's going to be more compressive in that bottom of a squat. It's going to give a really heightened sense of tension in that bottom of the squat and almost act as a bit of a spring to bounce you out of that position. We see a lot of like quote unquote squat specialists. Don't fucking get me started on what we were talking about the other day, because if you
I
do,
was just about to say that sounds an awful lot like a something specialist.
fucking this episode will go for 7 hours if you get me started on that now. But I will say this publicly. There is no such fucking thing. Will I say it publicly? I don't know. Should I say it?
Just
I don't
do
know.
it. Don't be a
Look,
pussy.
if you're a powerlifter, you do 3 lifts, okay? If you're bad at one of the lifts, that doesn't make you a specialist in the other 2. It just means you're not a very good powerlifter. If you're good at 1 and bad at 2, that makes you an even worse powerlifter. And that's not a bad thing necessarily, but don't just be like, oh, I'm a deadlift specialist because I'm really good at deadlift and I just suck at the other 2. Just be like, I need to improve my other 2 lifts, or oh yeah, I have a strong deadlift. If you have a strong squat and bench, don't say you're a subtotal specialist just because you suck at deadlift. Just say, I need to get a better deadlift, or like, I need to maximize my squat and bench press to put me in a position to win because my deadlift isn't as strong as my competitors. Like, what is this? Why are we making things up? What are we doing? We're just making things up for no reason. It doesn't make any sense.
Why doesn't it make any sense?
Logic, man. Like, that's like, that's all I can say is like logic. Like, could you just imagine, just for 1 second, you're involved in basketball. Imagine if the LA Lakers were like, we're a first half specialist, so we just play the first half. Our second half is trash, and instead of trying to get better at the second half, we're just going to fucking maximize our first half. What? No. You play basketball. It goes for 4 quarters. You can't be good at 2 of them and bad at 2 of them. You need to be good at 4 of them. It's the same thing. Just because you're not as good at the third one, like, just get better at it. That's the goal. Categorizing yourself and just leaning into this thing of like, I suck at one of the 3, so I'm going to specialize in 2. Just get better at the third. Three things. That's all you have to do. It's not that fucking hard. Moving on. Moving on. I see a benefit there. I see a benefit in the bench of if you have a bigger stomach or you have a bigger chest, you're rounder. It's less range of motion that the bar is going to have to travel, which can make bench pressing easier, right? If you have to move the bar less, you're going to be quote unquote stronger in that movement because you're moving the bar less. That's a big advantage when the bar is really heavy. There is a disadvantage to it though because it makes deadlifting a lot
So
harder.
does that make like the bigger people like subtotal specialists?
Yeah, I think that's what it
Okay.
means.
Okay.
I've never heard that term used by anyone that's actually strong though.
Yeah, that's because they don't need to do that. They're just like, yeah, like I have a great squat and I have a great bench, but my deadlift is average because I have a big torso and short arms.
Mm. I've never heard someone that's actually strong say that. That's a whole nother topic. But damn it, I said I wasn't going to go there, and I did. Fuck you, Ben.
I got you. Don't worry.
But yeah, so I see a benefit in that. But like what you mentioned is fat isn't a contractile tissue. It's not actually moving the weight. It's just reducing the range of motion in one of the lifts and giving a heightened sense of tension or stability in the other lift, which can aid in a little bit more weight on the bar. But you know what else can add to weight on the bar? More muscle. So what I would always suggest is if you want to max out your weight class, which again, I think that's a completely other topic that I think most of the time is completely unnecessary. Uh, but if you're really dead set on maxing out your weight class for whatever reason, add muscle. Just take the time to build some muscle, get bigger. You're going to get stronger in the process, and you're going to look better, and you're probably going to have a longer career in the sport as well. I'm not even going to go down the health path because what people will say is, "Well, I don't give a fuck about my health. I just care about powerlifting." Sick. Let's look at your powerlifting career. If you have more tissue and you're quote unquote healthier, you're gonna have a longer career. And if you really care about getting better at powerlifting that much, a longer career is going to serve you better in achieving bigger things in powerlifting. So let's look at it from that perspective. You look at all of the top guys on the top platforms in the top competitions these days, they're jacked and quite lean. I mean, look at Pro Raw stadiums this year and last year. Pro Raw platforms. Dudes look like bodybuilders.
Again, like I'm not saying that
For,
everyone has to be.
for almost every weight
Yeah,
class.
like I'm not saying that
too.
everyone has to be sub 10% body fat to be a elite level powerlifter. But I think if you look at, you know, again, we look at like arguably like the greatest powerlifter at the moment, like John Hack.
Yep, jacked.
Yeah. Like again, like is there potentially some benefit for like joints and like positioning with having a little bit of body fat on you? Yeah, probably. But
Maybe,
is it worth
maybe not.
putting on a heap of body weight regardless of what it is just for the sake of trying to move more weight? I don't think so.
No, I don't think so either. I mean, look, who I would consider probably definitely one of Australia's greatest ever powerlifters, if not Australia's most accomplished powerlifter,
Mm-hmm.
Will. Proper jacked and lean.
Yeah.
Not much body fat.
But I mean, like, for example, like,
So,
you look at Dylan, you know, when he went, what, 1,900 and posted what, all time world record, junior total, what, 1105, 1115, whatever it was. Like, he was 185 ish kilos. He's a big big, like, but he was what 6'6" as well.
Still.
Has some body fat on him, but was very muscular and obviously very, very strong.
Yeah, but then like, could you do that if you were that size but all muscle? You'd probably do more.
Maybe.
But like, is that possible? Who knows? That's just like, it's kind of a never-ending circle, right? I feel like whatever side of the scale you fall on with that one, you're just kind of going to live there, and I don't think anyone's going to change your mind on it. It's like you got the guys that just want to eat like shit and don't really care what they look like, and they're going to be like, "Oh man, weight moves weight. This is what I'm going to do," and that's a personal bias, and I don't think that anyone's going to change their mind on it, and like, nor should they either. I think if you want to do it, fucking do it. I don't give a shit. But like, if you're asking me for my opinion, I'm just going to say you'd probably be better off losing a bit of weight and adding a little bit of muscle.
Yeah.
That's going to be my personal opinion. Have you interviewed Em? I think we should interview Em at some point. Training. Do we want to?
Also, just as a bit of a caveat as well, I've got a maximum of 15 minutes before I've got another call.
Yeah, I gotta go too. Let's do one more then.
Cool.
If you could have every single person, this is a sick one to end on. If you could have every single person in the world do one exercise weekly, what would it be? Whether that's an individual movement or a specific training regime. So let's make it. I'm gonna rephrase the question slightly. If you could give someone either one exercise or a combination of 1 to 3 exercises that they do every single week for the rest of their life, that's in every single program. Okay, let's rephrase it. If you have to write a combination of 1 to 3 exercises in every program that you write for the rest of your life, regardless of the goal, what is it?
If I had to give everybody one exercise, and if we're just going a standalone exercise, and skill wasn't a really over the top consideration, I would say clean and jerk. But if I could give everyone 3 exercises, I would probably give them again, like, it really depends on the context, right? So if it was just like for general,
it has to be in every program that you write for the rest of your life. No context.
Okay. I'm going to say a dumbbell row. A GHD back extension, and I'm going to put that under the umbrella, like, there's obviously variations of, and I'm probably going to say a dip.
Nice. And would you do that as a tricep?
Sometimes not.
Okay. I'm gonna link mine together into a tricep. And it's going to be it has to be in every single program that I write for the rest of my life, regardless of the outcome that they're looking for. I'm going to go single arm dumbbell row, alternating kettlebell Z press, and some form of isometric hamstring hold on the GHD. Whether that be like a razor isometric or like Harrop or like whatever, some form of isometric bent knee hamstring hold on a GHD.
Yeah.
They're going to be my 3 that I roll as a tricep. And then depending on the goal will determine whereabouts in the program
No, we're
I
not getting
put
into
it.
that weeds.
That's what I'm going to do. Because I feel like I could either use that as a primer for a powerlifting session, for example. I could use that as a really nice primer, like movement prep series. Or I could go, oh, you want to be a better athlete? Okay, cool. With this single arm dumbbell row, we're going to do drop rows, and the alternating press, we're going to go heavy with a slow eccentric. And with your isometric holds, we're going to go like 30-second holds, and that's going to be RP fucking 9 on everything.
Yeah.
So, like little variations, I feel like that tricep can be really versatile.
I'd say so too.
Sick. Let's end it there, man. That's a beautiful way to end it.
All for it.
I feel like every one of our clients is going to expect those movements in their programs from now on. We've just committed to it for the rest of our lives.
It's like until the dawn of time.
All right, that wraps up another episode. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, guys.